Yo, it's your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics, back at you with a new video. Today is Saturday, November 8th, 2025, with your boy Ryan and the Northwest Sports Fanatics. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button either now or on your way out. Donate to your boy if you can. Cash App $ORIONNWSF or the YouTube Super Chat right here. We got some college football this Saturday afternoon. The number 9 Oregon Ducks versus the number 20 Iowa Hawkeyes. Kickoff is going to be here in roughly 5 to 10 minutes. So let's cue up the music, take a look at the thumb, and let's get ready for some college football. Happy Saturday, everyone. And I think the thumbnail turned out pretty fantastic here. And again, this is going to be a matchup of someone that's got the, agility, the athleticism, the speed versus just the grit and obviously the toughness. And we know that Iowa is very good at home. This is going to be a very tough game. There is rumors swirling that we may end up getting some rain, sleet, maybe even some snow before this one is over. And again, we did have some pretty tough tests on the road earlier in the year. But again, nothing like this. And again, should be a barn burner all the way to the end. And again, definitely one of the best, if not the best, college football matchup here this Saturday. And then obviously as we transition into the NFL tomorrow, I'll definitely be watching the Bucks and the Pats at 10 a.m. Don't know if I'm going to be getting that as a local game here in Oregon just yet. So realistically, we'll probably end up doing the Steelers and the Chargers on Sunday night, the Eagles and Packers on Monday night. And obviously I'll be tuning in to a lot of the other action that we have here today. Indiana down by 4 on an upset alert, but they are close. 36 seconds left. Down by 4 to Penn State, who is 3-5. Indiana 9-0, who beat Oregon. And obviously, we'll see if Fernando Mendoza can find a way to get the job done here. Kind of a odd game for him. 18 for 29, 211 yards and 1 pick. But it looks like he ends up getting the touchdown. We will find out here momentarily. Texas Tech 29, BYU 7. Ohio State blowing out Purdue 24-3. Ole Miss 42-0 against the Citadel. And then later on today, we got Missouri and A&M, Syracuse and Miami, Auburn and Vandy, number 23 Washington Huskies versus the Wisconsin Badgers, Wake Forest and Virginia, Cal and Louisville, LSU and Alabama, which would be pretty intriguing, and then Navy and Notre Dame to kind of cap off the night. So. Omar Cooper Jr. getting in, and it looks like Indiana may survive upset alert. They're up 26-24. I assume that they're going to review that to see if he ended up getting his foot down. They're watching the replays here. Ooh, I don't know. That's very close. And you would think that the Penn State defender, would have. But again, after seeing that next replay there, he did get the foot down. So I think that will end up being a touchdown for Indiana, and that's huge. 26-24. And I assume extra point will be coming up momentarily there. And again, it's never over till it's over, no matter how bad it looks. I think we all know that in college football, so. And we are going to get to kickoff here in just a minute or two. Getting all my screen set up here. Go Ducks, baby. Let's go. Big opportunity here to be able to win against a very quality team at home. Great job for Omar Cooper Jr. to get that foot down. And Indiana up 27-24 with 45 seconds left. Can the Penn State Nittany Lions get a field goal to tie or a touchdown to win? We will find out here in the last 45 seconds. And they're getting everyone warmed up and ready, and we should be ready for kickoff here in just a few minutes. Got to have a good coaching performance here from Dan Lanning, and we need Dante Moore to be the Dante Moore we know that he can be. And we know how physical of a matchup that this is going to be. And again, you know, we've had some ups and downs. Obviously, we've only had one loss this year to Indiana, and Indiana and Ohio State are the real deal in college football in 2025. We're 7-1, one loss to Indiana, who's ranked number 2 right now. Looks like they're going to pull off that upset alert against Penn State more than likely. 4-1 in the Big Ten for the Ducks, but Iowa is no slouch. 6-2, 4-1 in the Big Ten. When they ended up playing Indiana, they only lost by 5-6 points. So again, Iowa ranked 20th, and this is definitely a game that Iowa can win. And I think Oregon knows that. And again, it's going to be tough to be able to keep the crowd at a certain decibel level unless we can end up striking first and striking often. But again, I do like our chances here today to be able to get this big victory on the road. Oregon is a 6.5 favorite here on the Vegas line. And shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on the dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. Crazy that was Mendoza's first touchdown pass of the game. But again, you know, you never know what you're going to end up getting on any given Saturday or even Friday for college football, you know, games. Anybody can beat anyone on any given Friday or Saturday in the college football season. According to ESPN Analytics, they have the Ducks as a 70% favorite. I'm not really sure if I like those numbers. I don't think it's 70-30. I mean, if anything, it's probably 60-40 Iowa. You know, just the simple fact that they're at home, they're a physical team. And the defense better show up for Oregon today, or it might be a long day, especially if we end up getting some inclement weather with rain, sleet, maybe even some snow before the game is over. They're in Iowa, and hopefully we'll be able to, you know, match the physicality that Iowa is going to bring in this matchup here this afternoon. Beautiful day here in the Pacific Northwest. Didn't get a chance to sleep too much. Ended up going on a few long walks with the pup. The sun is out. Obviously, a little bit better weather there at Kinnick Stadium. And hopefully we will be able to bring those positive vibes and those high, intense energy burst plays, not only on offense, but defense as well. Everyone getting settled in. And again, we should be getting started here with kickoff in just a few minutes. I respect the Iowa Hawkeyes a lot. Not every year they're going to be ranked in the top 25, but most of the time they are. And they may not be Ohio State. They may not be Indiana, year in and year out, or, typically when a Penn State or Michigan team that usually is ranked. But again, Iowa is usually on that tier right below those, teams. And this year, obviously better than Penn State, better than Michigan. And they're right there with USC, in the top 25, obviously mixed in with Oregon, Indiana, and Ohio State. And definitely excited for this opportunity to try to be able to silence a crowd, which will be obviously easier said than done. They're in the building. What's good? Good luck here today between your Iowa Hawkeyes and my Oregon Ducks. And it looks like kickoff is going to be in about 4 minutes. They're just getting everyone to warm up. Oregon looking swaggy as ever, with another new uniform combo. Obviously with the green helmets with the white wings on the side. Rocking the white jerseys. Decided to rock the white jersey here as well. Got the Natty jersey on from 2010. We ended up playing Cam Newton in that Natty with LaMichael James and company. And again, we will see the physicality out of the Iowa Hawkeyes. And again, we're going to need Dante Moore to strike early and often. The running game, has to be good here today. And obviously the winner of this game is going to be, up front. It's going to be in the battle of the trenches. And I think Sarah knows that as well. The offensive line and the defensive line that plays better today is easily going to win this game. Again, you got to make sure that, you're pass blocking efficiently to give your quarterback time. You're going to have to open up the big blocks up front for the run game. And again, O-line and D-line are going to be very, very critical to find who ends up going to win here today. I watched that. They were on upset alert, but Mendoza ended up getting that last touchdown at the very, very end, and they definitely escape upset alert. And they probably should have lost that game if we're really being honest. But again, they end up getting the score within the last minute of the game. They go to 10-0, 27-24 over Penn State. And honestly, that would have been a bad loss, for Indiana. It's one thing if Indiana loses to like Ohio State or Iowa or Oregon or USC, but it's not the Penn State team at the beginning of the year that was good. And obviously we know that they, fired Coach Franklin, and then they went on a skid after Oregon went into their house and ended up beating them. And they haven't really fully recovered since that loss. And again, they put on a good fight, obviously at home, here today. And I had a feeling that Indiana, playing that early in the morning on the road would struggle, and they did. But again, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And a great victory there for Fernando Mendoza and the Indiana Hoosiers. The only thing, obviously they're going to take in consideration him getting the touchdown at the very end of the game, but his Heisman chances might have taken a slight hit. But I still think Fernando Mendoza is going to be a pretty good NFL quarterback based on what we've seen this year, depending on the team, the coach, the offensive coordinator, the supporting cast, and the scheme. We'll have to wait, because obviously if you go to certain teams, there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to succeed. Like if you go to the Cleveland Browns, like Baker Mayfield did, doesn't really matter who goes there. You could have had Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen go to Cleveland, and you're probably not going to succeed there. So sometimes you end up, having to go and be a journeyman and go to your second, third, fourth team if you're able to stay in the league that long enough. And then eventually you'll end up finding your forever home. And again, I think this quarterback class definitely has some talent, and congratulations to the Indiana Hoosiers for getting that last-second victory over Penn State. And again, they were getting dominated that whole game. That was on at 9 a.m. on Fox. And again, Mendoza did not play well in that game, but came up with a big touchdown pass, with less than a minute to go to give them that victory. So congratulations to them. 27-24, Indiana victorious. And right now, Ohio State and Indiana are the kings of college football. But again, Oregon and Iowa, we do have college football dreams, to be able to get into that college football playoff. And if you get into the playoff, anything can happen. Yeah, initially when he ended up having the catch, you saw that first foot kind of float in the air, but then that second foot, ends up coming down. You would have thought that Penn State defender would have pushed him out more aggressively to prevent any foot from coming down. So that was obviously, a little bit of a lapse there, because again, you are coached. Anytime it ends up being in the back of the end zone, you push, as hard as you can to make sure that no foot comes down. But, the push was kind of a slight intermediate push. It wasn't really like a full-fledged, I'm trying to get you out of bounds. And that was just enough for him to dangle that last foot and to toe tap it in the green. And again, that touchdown was confirmed and a big victory for the Indiana Hoosiers. Excited about this matchup here, number 9 Oregon and the number 20 Iowa Hawkeyes. And again, it's very cloudy. It's overcast. It's raining right now. Potential sleet and snow could come down before this game is over. And again, we're on the road. The weather is not good. We might have snow. And obviously we're an outdoor team, so that really doesn't faze us compared to teams that play indoors. But again, anytime you go in a harsh environment, and again, the Iowa Hawkeye fans have always been fantastic, and this has been for many, many years. You go back to the 80s, the 90s, and obviously there's been certain teams that have been better, maybe more recent than maybe back in the day. But again, Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon, USC, Iowa, we got some teams, in the top 25 as well as Washington. And I'm definitely excited for this opportunity to see if we can end up winning a tough battle. And this is definitely going to be a war. Don't you forget it for 1 second. And this is not going to be easy for either team. You got the physicality and the toughness for Iowa, which they always bring every single year, even if they're not ranked. And then obviously with the Oregon Ducks, we're going to be a little light. No Dante Moore, no Kenyon Sadiq. So, our number 1 receiver out, number 1 tight end out. Both of those guys are NFL players. So again, that means that Dante Moore is going to have to look for other options. The running game obviously has to step up. And again, even if we had Kenyon Sadiq, our number 1 tight end, who should be a first-round draft pick in the NFL draft, and Dante Moore, obviously we know he's got a special type of skill set, just like we've seen a few other players, in the country, have that type of skill set. And again, definitely going to hurt us. But again, I don't think it's going to be the deciding factor. And the rain is coming down here at Kinnick Stadium. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on the dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. And again, we're going to need Dan Lanning to really, be a fantastic coach here today. We know you're a fantastic recruiter, but no Dante Moore, wide receiver 1 out, right? Kenyon Sadiq, number 1 tight end out, both NFL players. We're going to have to find that, I assume that we're going to run the football quite a bit, to kind of make up for not having some of our key skill position players. But with the rain coming down as heavy as it is, I imagine there's going to be quite a bit of slippage, out there for both teams. And here we go. And he returns it out the 1. Tackle him. Here we go. All right, let me refresh everything here. All right, let's go, baby. Come on, Dan, find a way. Sappington with the kickoff there. 21-yard return. And first down and 10 for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Shotgun set. Handoff up the middle. And Moulton with a short gain, a run of a yard. Betcher there with the tackle, one of our best defenders. Let's go, baby. 2nd down and 9 at the Iowa 22. Gronowski, little check down. And good tackle there by 3 Ducks. Good coverage there early. Three-yard pass from Gronkowski there to Wedgen. 3rd down and 6 at the Iowa 25. And Gronowski pass incomplete. Short right to Gill. And we'll take that. And obviously Ducks initially showing blitz and then going back into his zone coverage. And a missed opportunity for the Hawkeyes. Great defense there for Oregon. 4th down and 6 at the Iowa 25, and Oregon forces a 3-and-out. That's on CBS. And the next NBA game for the Portland Trailblazers will end up doing it, I would assume, around Tuesday or Wednesday of the upcoming week. I'll have to look at the schedule. All right, Gary Bryant back in coverage. And again, I wasn't expecting Oregon to get a 3-and-out on defense, but I'll be definitely happy to take it. High snap, and they just get it off. And that one goes out of bounds off the side of his foot, and a terrible punt there by Iowa. Oregon's going to have fantastic field position here, and a great job by McClellan on special teams. Go Ducks. And McClellan did a great job by not running into the punter there. And Dante Moore on the shotgun set, pass incomplete to McClellan. 2nd down and 10 at the Oregon 48. And that definitely had a little mustard on it, throwing it to the sideline. I mean, you can't be lobbing it over there, otherwise it's going to turn into a pick 6. So, shotgun set. Dante Moore on 2nd down and 10 at the Oregon 48. Short right to Noah Whittington, and incomplete. 3rd down and 10 at the Oregon 48 now. And again, I want to see them run the football, not pass the ball on the, they went to the left side on the first pass, and then goes to the right side on 2nd down. And I get it, it's raining pretty heavily out there, but you got to pound the rock. You got to be able to see, what those guys are going to be able to do, in this bad weather. And I'm not really liking the play calling here from Will Stein. Not exactly what I expected. 3rd down and 10. No huddle, shotgun set. Dante Moore passing complete to Benson. And that is 4th down. And again, a wasted opportunity after a 3-and-out and getting the ball at roughly the 50-yard line. You don't even run it once. And then now, you're in a position where, you're going to try to probably pooch punt it unless they decide to go for it. Good defense there by Iowa on 3rd down and 10. And we got 2 3-and-outs. Oregon with the little pooch punt. And it ends up being a touchback. You got to have a lot of touch. And Ferguson Reynolds, 52 yards into the end zone. 1st down and 10 at the Iowa 20. Yeah, the sequence for both teams, not ideal. Not ideal whatsoever. And you got to embrace the bad weather, the rain, the sleet, the snow, and especially when we know Iowa and Oregon typically are good, running football teams. We got 5 running backs that we can go to. And again, we don't have Kenyon Sadiq. We don't have DeCorian Moore. We don't have our, arguably 2 top guys, at wide receiver and tight end, both NFL players not playing today. So again, with that being said, why did we go for 3 passes when those guys are out? Why not try to establish the run and see if you can get, 4 or 5, 6 yards on first or second down, and then you can get into manageable, third down and 1, third down and 2, third down and 3, instead of it having being first down and 10, second down and 10, third down and 10, and then fourth down and 10, and then you gained absolutely nothing, off that great 3 and out by Oregon's D, and you got a kind of a shanked punt. You got the ball at almost the 50, and then you're not able to get 1 fucking yard. Again, we might need to make a change at offensive coordinator, and again, there's been some games where he's been pretty good, but there also has been some games where this is not what we expect, for Oregon football. And then obviously on Iowa's side, they might have some same concerns there as well. You got to be able to make sure that you're exploiting weaknesses, and you got to pound the rock. You're not going to win this game by just throwing the football 50, 60 times, for Iowa or Oregon. Big facts. Thumbnail turned out fantastic here today. Number 9, Oregon. Number 20, Iowa. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. $53 subs to go to be able to hit 23,300. It's going to be a battle. It's going to be a war. There's no doubt about that. And, it definitely favors Iowa being at home and with this type of weather. But again, we are 7-1. Our only loss was to Indiana. They dominated us, from beginning to end. They almost lost to Penn State, earlier this morning. The game just concluded. Mendoza got a touchdown with about 45 seconds left in the fourth quarter for them to barely beat Penn State. But again, a win is a win. And congratulations to them. They improved to 10-0. And the kings of college football are the Ohio State Buckeyes and the Indiana Hoosiers. Obviously, we have a lot of other great teams that are in the top 10, but those are in the top 2. And coincidentally, both are in the Big Ten. First down and 10. Shotgun set. Gronowski rushes in the middle. 4-yard gain. Vixen in there with the tackle. And at least you get someone running the football off that RPO, and he decides to keep it, even if it ends up being the quarterback. Second down and 6 at the Iowa 24, and that rain is coming down. Blue Jay in the building. What's good, brother? How are you? And we will be doing the Chargers and Steelers on Sunday night, Packers and Eagles on Monday night, sprinkling some Blazers, during the week as well, before we get into Thursday night football. And again, we'll definitely be paying attention to a lot of the games here later today. Second down and 6 at the Iowa 24. Halfback toss. Moulton. First down, Hawkeyes. That was a good run. 7-yard gain to the Iowa 31. Mixon with coverage. Kamari Moulton with that nice rush. Jerry Mixon, the linebacker, with the tackle. Let's go, baby. Got to be able to get some interceptions, some fumbles, some sacks, some strip sacks, anything that we can do to kind of even out the playing field here being on the road and in harsh weather. First down and 10. Shotgun set. And handoff to Kamari Moulton again. 5-yard gain. Seeing him in there with the tackle and Betcher. Second down and 5 at the Iowa 36. Go Ducks. Let's get it, baby. Weegin. Second down and 5. And a nice 3-yard gain there by Moulton again. At least they got the memo. They're running the football. And a good block up front there. Now third down and manageable for Iowa. Nice to be able to see some offensive coordinators doing, something positive here. 3rd down and 2. And Gronowski there, pass incomplete. Why are you throwing the football? Pound the rock. And now it's 4th down and 2. I mean, I'm not complaining, but I mean, obviously, getting a few yards here, a few yards there. Run the football. And now it ends up being 4th down and 2 at the Iowa 39, and you would assume that's going to be an Iowa punt. And especially a throw to the sideline, that's not a high percentage throw. If you're going to end up making a throw for a 1st down for 2 to 5 yards, why not run a crossing route or a slant, something right in front, of the quarterback's eyes instead of having to try to make a really difficult throw towards the sideline where if you're not on point, that could end up being a big pick 6 or a disastrous play. So play calling has not really been very good up to this point for either team. But again, we do have some bad weather now here at Kinnick Stadium. Get it, baby. Muffed. He muffed it. Grab it. And he kicks it out of bounds. Wow. And Oregon almost came up with points there. And again, the snap went over the punter's head and a little slow to react at that point, but then eventually gets a foot on it. And that wasn't even close. I'm not sure if that was a fake that ended up going a little ornery there, but that didn't look like it was anywhere. It almost looked like they were trying to direct snap it to one of the other players, not the punter. And now we got flags on the play. If we do lose this game, I don't believe that would be the deciding factor. Of course, you want to win this game, but obviously you can't lose more than 2 games. 2 is the most, that you can lose. So, and we still got Washington in Seattle at the last regular season game, which could be an L also. So, but I don't necessarily fully agree with that. Obviously, some of the analysts think so. But again, Oregon still, even if they end up having 2 losses, whether they lose today or lose to Washington, if that happens, they're still good enough to be in the college football playoff, Marcos in the building. What's good, brother? Go, baby. I got the Stone LaMichael James vintage jersey from 2010. Probably one of my favorite jerseys, even though that was probably the natty that we should have won. And plus, I mean, if you look at, Oregon's team, again, like who are you going to put in, over Oregon at that point as Oregon ends up getting the safety call and we're up 2-0. And again, you kind of felt like if there was going to be mistakes, it was going to be on Oregon's end here being on the road, harsh weather, obviously a very passionate crowd from the Hawkeyes there at Kinnick Stadium. And again, at least they were running the football. And again, but they had a good chance to keep moving the chains, and they decided to throw it on 3rd down and 2 after running the football 3 times in a row, once by the quarterback, 2 by Moulton, the running back. So again, any type of slight mistake, whether it be in play calling or a botched snap, Oregon's going to definitely have to make up for it. And Iowa, we'll see if they can recover, from that as well. 2-0 Oregon here early. Jordan in the building. What's good? Yeah, crazy ending there. Obviously, Indiana did not play very well against Penn State this morning, and 9 a.m. start on the road. Indiana obviously clearly is the better team, but again, in college football, it's like the NFL. Anybody can beat anyone on any given Friday or Saturday in the college football scene, even if it's a team that is nowhere near the same level of talent and wins. And again, they got lucky. Mendoza, at the very end, getting a touchdown, and his receiver ended up dragging that 1 foot after the first foot was kind of floating above the air. But, I'm kind of curious why the DB didn't push him out of bounds. You slam him out of bounds, no foot comes down, and he just kind of gave him a tap, and he was able to drag that second foot down, and that was the end of Penn State, who really hasn't recovered since Oregon came into Penn State and beat them. And they've obviously fired James Franklin, started dropping games left and right, and who knows what the future holds for Penn State and Nittany Lion football. And we'll take that safety there. And I got the James sewn in on the back as well. You got to, most people know college football jerseys typically don't got the name sewn in the back. And unless you're able to find, some limited edition jerseys from the early 2000s, like I got a Joey Harrington through Nike and his Heisman run, where I was able to find a very rare jersey through Nike that has the, name on the back sewn. But I mean, those are pretty rare. And Iowa with the kickoff here after the safety, and Whittington bouncing it to the outside, bouncing off a couple Hawkeyes, and a nice 11-yard return from Noah Whittington. Drew Stevens with the punt, and now we got to see Dante Moore on the second drive, and let's please run the football. Yeah, I ended up streaming that game. That was my first NBA Blazers stream of the season, and down by 22, and I was telling people on the channel I thought that we could win that game, and Thunder fans said they were going to win by 60. I said pump the brakes, and again, we shot 80% in the fourth quarter, and that was one of the best comeback victories of the year, just like the Denver Nugget game a few days before that. Awesome that you got to go to that game. First down and 10, hand off. There we go, baby. Noah Whittington, and I love that run. And again, run the football. And a nice counter run there from Noah Whittington. And we got 5 deep in the running back position. And nice to be able to see Stein and, the Ducks find a way. Handoff up the middle. First down, Oregon on second down and 1. A 2-yard gain there by Noah Whittington. That's awesome, brother. Like, sub, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Shotgun set on first down and 10. Hand off to Whittington up the middle. And about a 6-yard gain there for Noah. Second down and 4 at the 50. Go Ducks. Second down and 4. No huddle, shotgun set. Whittington up the middle. There we go. First down, Oregon. Move the chains. There we go. First down and 10 at the Iowa 42. And lo and behold, you run the football, you gain yards. Who would have thought? Especially in bad weather. And we got to get Hill a lot of opportunities. Noah Whittington will be the one, but Hill is really kind of like the LeGarrette Blount of the offense and a guy that can really, change the dynamic of the game. Marine Bean, I agree. I mean, at some point you can throw the football, but let's establish the run first. And hand off to Hill. And De'Aaron Hill with a 2-yard gain, second down and 8 at the Iowa 40. And again, not having, Kenyon Sadiq, our number 1 tight end, and obviously DeCorian Moore, number 1 receiver, both are out today. So definitely a huge advantage for Iowa to be able to take advantage, but we still got enough skill position players to win this game. Shotgun set on second down and 8. Dante Moore, pass complete to Gary Bryant Jr., baby. Here we go. There we go, baby. First down, Oregon. Move the chains. Let's go. How have things been going for you, Marcos? Work and everything else been good for you? Miss you, bro. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. And Gary Bryant Jr. with an injury after that catch. And we already have plenty of, skill position players down. The last thing that we need is our kickoff returner, our punt returner, and our wide receiver. Now it looks like he's going to be out for the game. Fucking A, dude. 5'11", 191, senior. And again, there goes our punt returner, kick returner, and our, wide receiver, 3, 4. Obviously got upgraded to maybe 2 today. But if he can't come back, obviously being carried off by medical staff and teammates, not good. And again, luckily we have enough depth where I still think that we can, win this game. Iowa is a very good team, but, we're starting to drop like flies out there. And again, had some injuries in practice this week with Dante Moore. And again, now we have another injury here with another one of our studs, Gary Bryant Jr. I hope he's okay. Tom in the building. What's good? Yeah. And again, it's like, when we play the Lakers, it's like we play 2 different ways. If LeBron, Luka, and Reeves are playing, we're going to give you our best effort. But when, you have some of your stars out, I don't know what it is. Maybe just playing down to the competition, thinking that it's going to be an easy win, even though I know the Blazers really don't feel like that. And again, Ayton had his revenge game against us, and, Lakers ended up getting a victory. But again, we know as the season, obviously goes further, there are going to be some competitive matchups between the Lakers and the Blazers. And, we'll see after LeBron gets healthy with a healthy Luka and Reeves. And once they have a full roster, they'll be very exciting to watch. And, the Blazers are young. Drew Holiday has been great. People thought he was washed. Clearly not. Denny Advia is an all-star this year. Obviously as we let, Anthony Simons go to Boston and got Drew Holiday. So it's been a good mix, up to this point. Shaden Sharp is nice. Donovan Kling Kong, obviously is a good defender. We got Yang in the draft, who's still kind of early in his development. Jeremy Grant averaging about 20 off the bench. So, it definitely feels like the Blazers are a playoff team this year, which is nice to see. And we are patiently waiting for Scoot. And then a few more months down the road, Damian Lillard. So it's definitely a young, team, but they got a lot of heart. And they are much better this year than they have been in the previous years. I'm going to the Blazers and Spurs the day before Thanksgiving to see Wemby. So, again, we had tickets to see Wemby last year, but he got hurt. And I think Scoot hit a game winner in that game last year. But hopefully Wemby will be healthy this year, and I'm looking forward to it. 16 hours. Yeah, you got to grind. 3rd in the country in explosive plays, but after all of these injuries, we'll see. And Dante Moore rushes for a 1-yard loss, fumbled, and it looks like we recovered. Oh my gosh. Second down and 11 at the Iowa 19. Reflect in the building. What's good? Yeah, looking forward to the Huskies and the Ducks at the end of the year. Obviously, today's game in Washington could be those losses for Oregon, and I'll be watching the Huskies take on Wisconsin later today. Good luck with your Huskies as well, and good luck with your Lakers, Tom. Handoff up the middle, and Jordan Davison with a maybe I don't even know if he got a yard. They say he got a yard, but. And we got a false start on the offensive line for Oregon. Come on now. We can't afford these silly penalties with all of these injuries. We got lucky that they had the muff snap that the punter ended up kicking out of bounds, and we got a safety out of it. I wasn't expecting that, but with the rain coming down, potentially even snow before the game ends, as rumored, we'll see if that happens. Yeah, and I'm definitely looking forward to that in a couple of weeks. I believe Oregon plays, Minnesota next Friday. So that'll be a stream that we do for Oregon next Friday. And the following week after that will be against USC, and that will be a war and it'll be a battle as well. Yeah, and we were just shooting for an 8 seed for the Blazers this year, but realistically, if we can stay somewhat healthy, we might be able to hit a 4 to a 7 seed. You never know. No huddle, Dante Moore intercepted by Lee. Wow. And again, Iowa's defense coming up big. And again, on 3rd down and 14, not what you want from Dante Moore. And again, you're throwing it into double coverage, and that was a terrible throw. And nice job there by Lee with the big pick. And again, Dante Moore is going to have to learn from that mistake, especially with the rain coming down the way that it is. You would think like running the football, would be more of a natural, decision, especially with no Bryant Jr., no Decorian Moore, no Kenyon Sadiq. It's like half of our starting lineup is injured, So again, this is a shell of what we're used to, but we still have our running backs for the most part healthy. So why are we not running the football? Obviously, they're on 3rd down and 14. You're not going to run a draw. But again, why are we throwing it deep in the end zone in double, triple coverage when you could have just taken like 7 yards with a slant and then kicked a field goal? Again, I get it. It's college football and whatnot, but I'm definitely not liking the decision-making by Dante Moore here early, as well as the offensive play calling from the OC as well. Terrible throw. Come on, Dan. You got to coach him up. Let's go. And shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Little sloppy start, but again, this is what I kind of expected. On the road, Kinnick Stadium, harsh environment, passionate, smart fans for Iowa. And again, we ended up winning at Penn State when they were still good, before they had their meltdown and they never recovered after that Oregon loss. But again, we got absolutely throttled, by Indiana at home. And again, they were the better team. And again, even though they almost lost, to Penn State on the road this morning, they found a way to get a touchdown with less than a minute to go from Mendoza. Receiver got 1 foot down as he was getting pushed out of bounds slightly. And again, a win is a win, no matter if it's only by 1 or 2 points or a touchdown. And congratulations to them. The Big Ten obviously is the king of college football with the Buckeyes at 1, Indiana at 2. But again, hopefully Oregon can find a little bit more consistency with all these injuries that we have. And again, the defense is definitely going to need to step up if we're going to win this game. We're going to need interceptions, just like Iowa got with Lee in their secondary. We're going to need fumbles. We're going to need punch outs. And hopefully we'll be able to find, a few big plays. I don't know if I expect a pick 6 or a fumble for a touchdown, but that definitely would be great if we could get something like that to kind of even up the score. Shotgun set. Granaski there. Pass incomplete. Short right to Moulton. 2nd down and 10 at the Iowa 20. And here's the Mendoza off the Penn State blitz. Push him. Like, why did you not push him out of bounds there? All you had to do is push him with some force. He doesn't get that foot down. And he doesn't even get the first one down. He gets the second one down. And all you needed was a slight push, and Penn State wins. But I guess, when it rains, it pours when you're not a good football team. 1 for 4 for 3 yards early on. 2nd down and 10. And Moulton rushes to that right side for a 3-yard gain. Betcher and Mixon in there for the tackle. And a short run there by Kamari. 3rd down and 7 at the Iowa 23. See if we can get a big stop here on third down. Gronowski there rushes up the middle, 8-yard gain, first down, Hawkeyes. And again, he has been running the football a few times here early. First down and 10 at the Iowa 31. Yeah, and I think a big part of that Penn State, Indiana game, it was because it was at 9 a.m. Indiana hasn't, played that many games at 9 a.m. and on the road. And anytime when you play that early, sometimes you're ready to go and sometimes you're not, and especially if you play most of your games around lunchtime or in the evening and whatnot. And again, if you're in the Big Ten, you're going to have some matchups very early in the morning, regardless on who you are. But I think that had a part to play, in that game here earlier this morning. And handoff up the middle. And Patterson with a 5-yard run, second down and 5 at the Iowa 36. Mixon in coverage there with the tackle. Second down and 5. Patterson rushing to that right side for a 5-yard gain. First down, Hawkeyes. First down and 10 at the Iowa 41. And really what it's going to come down to is the line of scrimmage. Who ends up winning the O-line and the D-line, the battle in the trenches. That's who's going to win this game, because that's going to open up the running game, for both teams, as well as giving enough time, in the passing game to hopefully come up with, those big plays, whether it be in the first half or in the second half. 2-0 here early for Oregon against Iowa. First down and 10. And Kamari Moulton there rushing to that right side for a 4-yard gain. Terrence Green with the tackle and the coverage. Second down and 6 at the Iowa 45. And obviously when we ended up, playing Wisconsin, when we were honoring the Grateful Dead with those Grateful Ducks, uniforms, it was pouring down rain in Autzen, and then Dante Moore got hurt and had to exit the game. And, since that happened, it definitely feels like, he has to kind of reboot. Hasn't really been the same player, since that happened. And, again, I know at some point we're going to get a game with no rain, but you have to be able to play in the elements. And there we go. Big sack lunch there. It's 12 noon. You know what time it is. Time for an Oregon Duck sack lunch. Where are you going? Yum, 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 yum. We'll take that. Coyote. I like that, baby. Loss of 8 with the big sack lunch. And we know Gronowski obviously can run the football. He's already rushed a few times for positive yards. We'll see what happens here on third down. Third down and 14. And Gronowski pass incomplete, deep left to Gill, and complete. And now it's going to be fourth down and 14 at the Iowa 37. And it looks like Oregon is going to force another punt. Here we go. I got this amazing glow-in-the-dark duck chain from Collegiate Art Designs. He's got a couple new designs, one with the O with the wings, and then another one that, just is the O that lights up into, yellow and green. But unfortunately, with all of the lighting and the equipment, it doesn't show up on stream, really only in regular lighting or in the dark where it really, pops and whatnot. So unfortunately, I'm not able to rock that, but I do got a icy white Oregon Duck chain on the way in the next week or two. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And we'll be repping that on the channel, hopefully for the Husky game, at least towards the end of the year. And Iowa with the punt. 45 yards and fair caught here by Benson. And this is going to be something to keep an eye on. We normally have Bryant Jr. that ends up getting punts and, kickoff returns. And then now to have another individual back there in Benson, that could lead to a fumble or a kind of a muffed catch that could turn into a big turnover for Oregon. Hopefully it doesn't. But anytime when you end up having your backup, go back there, it's not easy. it's one of the hardest things to do in football, to catch a punt return or a kick return. And Gary Bryant Jr. now making his way back into the locker room, which is not ideal. Yeah, DeCorian is out, as well as Kenyon Sadiq. First down and 10, handoff. And Noah Whittington breaking a tackle and another. And a nice 7-yard gain there. TJ Hall with the coverage there for the Hawkeyes. Second down and 3 at the Oregon 25. Yeah, and it kind of sucks too, when you end up having a lot of like apple green or like yellow, you can't really rock it on the stream if you have a green screen. Otherwise, it would just be like a floating head. So, I got some Bo Nix, Justin Herbert, apple green jerseys that I would love to rock on the stream, but you just wouldn't be able to see anything except my floating head. So kind of unfortunate, the one drawback to a green screen, you're not able to rock certain gear, if you have anything that's typically green or yellow, but I got plenty of other white, black jerseys and other jerseys as well. End of the first quarter, I don't think anyone anticipated a 2-0 lead for Oregon, but that's what it is. And it's first down and 10 at the Oregon 28 when we get back, obviously, from the commercial break. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. Yeah, but you also have to realize, if you haven't been paying attention to Penn State football, Oregon broke them. So when Oregon went into Penn State, obviously that was the beginning of the end of James Franklin, and then they started dropping games left and right. So again, if you've been paying attention, their quarterback is out for the year, and they've had many injuries on top of that, and then they got their head coach fired. So anytime you end up having your leadership and your quarterback going down, Penn State, obviously played with a lot of heart today, and they were at home. And again, they gave Indiana, some problems, but at the end, Indiana ended up getting the victory. And, sometimes playing early in the morning and on the road, regardless on who you play, can be a struggle. It's like when Oregon went to Northwestern. Northwestern is an okay team, obviously a 5-3 record, going into USC yesterday, now 5-4. And obviously, when you have teams that are typically better, but they start slow. You're not in front of your fans. You're not on your home field. Sometimes it takes a little time, to find the right plays and the right kind of concepts. And again, if the other team, is getting that, big flash plays, the crowd is into it. Yeah, sometimes it takes 1, 2, even 3, 4 quarters to finally get your rhythm. And, Indiana did not look good today. But again, Mendoza came up with a big catch with 45 seconds left. And at the end of the day, a win is a win, even if it's an ugly win, just like with the Bronco game on the NFL a few days ago. A win is a win, even when it's ugly. And, you would prefer to win in style, and it's great to win with style points, but, sometimes, things do get ugly. So. Yeah, but you also got to think with Penn State, like how many of those players are fully invested. After James Franklin got fired, the head coach that probably recruited them to be there, and then the quarterback out, you know what I'm saying? It's like, some players on the team, might have that like natty mentality, like this is the game of the season and we're going to try to play spoiler. But then others might just be going through the motions, thinking about where they're going to transfer to next, based on all the shit that's happened, with Penn State after Oregon beat them, and then they started dropping games left and right, and, good effort, after a month or so of bad football, but it just wasn't good enough. Start of the second quarter here momentarily. Both quarterbacks 1 for 5 in this bad weather. Shotgun set. And Davison rushes to the left side for about 6 yards. Nice job by Jordan. Second down and 4 at the Oregon 34. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. And a 4-yard run there on no huddle. And Hill, I really like Hill. You know, his type of running style is, you know, very Jonathan Stewart, LeGarrette Blount-ish. And I love it. We need to be able to give him some more carries. First down, Ducks. Move the chains. Well, considering we do have a scoreboard at the top of the screen, that should tell you the story. 13:41 left in the second quarter, 2-0 Oregon. Not really sure why people ask what the score is when the score is on the screen, but, you know, it is what it is. And Dante Moore passes to Johnson, Jamari Johnson. And for no gain, second down and 8 at the Oregon 36. Oh. And Jamari Johnson with a 3-yard gain, second down and 7 at the Oregon 41. Well, if your eyesight is too bad to see the score on the screen, then this might not be the place for you to actually watch football. Second down and 7 at the Oregon 41. Shotgun set. Dante Moore, pass complete to Johnson. Caught at the Iowa 44. Run, baby. There we go. Nice 21-yard pass. First down, Ducks. Move the chains. Shotgun set. Davison rushes up the middle. 19-yard gain. Here we go. First down, Oregon, and back-to-back splash plays here. And again, running the football. Who would have thought that's going to open the game up? And Oregon is 5 deep at running back. Great job there by Jordan Davison. And again, that's the one position that we don't have injuries with. At wide receiver and tight end, we're banged up pretty bad. But at running back, we still have plenty of pieces. I mean, obviously starting off a little slow, but we're starting to pick it up now. Touchdown, Oregon, shotgun set, and Hill, one of my favorite Ducks as a freshman. And that is a beautiful touchdown on a 19 rushing yard touchdown scamper. Let's go. 8-0 Ducks. Look at that. If you're going to try to get Hill, look at him. Breaks 3 tackles, runs over a Hawkeye. And again, in my opinion, you know, I love Noah Whittington, you know, but again, you know, I feel like Hill should be the starter. And I know at some point next year he will be, you know, but again, it's like you have so many different running backs with everyone that does something really, really well. And I feel like with Hill, speed, athleticism, and power, you know, he gives you something that no other running back on the Duck staff does. Noah Whittington is kind of small and slippery, and he's got some speed. Same thing with Jordan Davison, but no one is really built like Hill. You know, he's kind of built like a, you know, kind of a hybrid halfback, fullback. You know, he's very big, and again, he's got a lot of speed for his size. And a great touchdown there for the Oregon Ducks, and we'll take that. And they're reviewing it now. Yeah, we would really love to have Evan Stewart. And again, we just had Gary Bryant Jr. go down, our punt returner, kick returner, and obviously he's one of the top 5 wide receivers. He's out probably for the rest of the game. DeCorian Moore got injured in practice this week. And then Kenyon Sadiq, our NFL tight end, who might be the best tight end in the country, obviously is not playing today either. So I don't know what they're looking at. He definitely crossed the line before his knee or elbow went down. I don't know what we're looking at. He brought his head down, and that's a touchdown. Yeah, and thankfully we have depth. You know, we're 5 running backs deep. You know, we got 6, 7 wide receivers, you know, a few different tight ends, and obviously some of these guys are better than others, but this is probably the best depth that we've had at the skill position, you know, on offense in a long time. There we go. Touchdown is good after the review there. Extra point is up from Atticus Sappington, and it is good. 9-0 Oregon. Let's go. Here we go, Ducks. And again, in a harsh environment on the road. But again, you know, even though we have a lot of our main studs out, next man up mentality. And nice job by Sappington getting that kick. 9-0 Ducks. Love me some Deere Hill. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we anticipated it being 2-0 out of the gates. But again, you know, both teams started off with a 3-and-out, and they were throwing the football in the heavy rain. Why? You know, when both teams are known for being good rushing teams, you know, they may not have, you know, the same type of running back success as they did last year and the year before for Iowa. They may not be on our level, you know, in the running game, but, you know, eventually when they ended up having that punt, I'm not really sure if it was, you know, it's supposed to be a direct snap to one of the players, you know, because it didn't even get anywhere near the punter. And then eventually the punter chased it down, tried to kick it once, missed, and then eventually got a foot on it. And then that turned into the safety. But again, am I surprised with the 9-0? I mean, it could easily be 9-0 Iowa at this point, but I'm definitely happy with the early lead. And hopefully the defense will be able to come up with a big play. We need sacks. We need picks. We need strip sacks. We need fumbles. And we need interceptions, and hopefully we can get them. (9-0) Oregon. 11:46 left in the second quarter. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 200 likes, 100 on that dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. Gained 4 subs since the last commercial break. Shout out to all the new subs that we've acquired already so far. 49 more to go to 23,300. And shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. And again, this is a big opportunity for Dan Lanning. We already know he's a fantastic recruiter, you know, a fantastic person, you know, but again, it's about coaching. And again, we'll see if we can get, you know, Stein on the same page, and we can get some good plays with our offense here the rest of the way. Definitely looking forward to the Buccaneers and the Patriots tomorrow. I'll definitely be watching that at 10 a.m. And I don't know if we're going to be getting that locally here, but if we do, I will be doing that tomorrow. If not, I'll just watch it. And then we will be doing Sunday Night Football with the Steelers going against, was it the Chargers, I believe? And then we got the Eagles and Packers on Monday night. So that'll be what's on the slate, you know, for the next 2 days, Sunday night and Monday Night Football. And then at some point during the week, we'll do a little Blazers, and then Thursday Night Football. And then next Friday, I believe Oregon plays Minnesota. And then we'll go back and do college football on Friday and Saturday, and then NFL on Sunday and Monday. A lot of fired coaches there. Sam Pittman, Hugh Freeze, Billy Napier, Brian Kelly, Mike Gundy, James Franklin from Penn State, Troy Taylor, Deshaun Foster from UCLA, and Brent Prime. Yeah, I mean, if Dan can eventually lead us to winning a natty, I mean, you know, he's the best thing that we've had since Chip Kelly, and we know Chip was very successful, you know, in that 4-year stretch for us. Rose Bowl, Natty, Rose Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, but obviously we're not in the BCS anymore, and the goal is to win Obviously a natty with this college football playoff. And I honestly feel if Dan stays for another 10 years, we should be able to make at least 1 or 2 natties in 10 to 15 years. And we may not win the first time that we go, but hopefully we can win at least 1 before I get too old. And I would love to see the Mariners win a pennant as well. Punt, fumble, punt. First 3 possessions for Iowa. Probably not what they anticipated in this game at home with this bad weather. We'll see what Mark Gronowski can do here. Yeah, Seahawks have had a fantastic year. Shotgun set, snap is low, handoff up the middle, and a 5-yard gain there by Kamari Moulton. Betcher in there with the tackle. Love him at linebacker. One of the best linebackers that Oregon has had in quite a few years. Sideline to sideline, just an absolute stud. You'll see him playing on Sundays at some point. Yeah, definitely a trap game for you against Arizona, going against Jacoby Brissett since Kyler Murray is out, but definitely a game that you think you should win. I know Dallas thought they were going to win that game, but Seattle is definitely more, in tune with what they have on offense and defense. Better O-line, better defense than what we saw with Dallas. Second down and 5. Moulton rushes to that right side, breaks the tackle, and gets about 8 yards. First down, Hawkeyes. Move the chains. $38 likes. We're behind schedule. If you're in the room and haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. It takes 1 second. We should definitely be at 100 by now already. Shotgun set, and Gronowski decides to run it. And a 1-yard gain there. Second down and 9 at the Iowa 39. But based on how Marcos, Arizona played against Dallas, it's a little eye-opening, as long as you're able to, not let the offense get bogged down by that Arizona defense that played very well against Dallas. You should be able to pull away. Second down and 9. Handoff by Moulton again. And a 5-yard rush. Mixon with the coverage. I see you, Jerry. Third down and 4 at the Iowa 44. Shotgun set, and Gronowski there rushes up the middle again. I don't know why they continue to rush with him. 3-yard gain, 4th down and 1 at the Iowa 47. And then Thieneman in there with the tackle, who ended up being the hero with the clinching interception against Penn State when actually Penn State had James Franklin and we're still good. And I know they like running this RPO, but I'm not really sure if that's the type of play that you want to run over and over and over on the Ducks. I mean, you will get a few first downs here and there, but it's not like he's got speed enough to run away from you. Fans are booing the spot. I'm not sure if we're going to end up getting a measurement here. And a 1-yard run there by Gronkowski. First down, Iowa. First down and 10 at the Iowa 48. But I guess this is going to be a common theme with the way that the weather is coming down, that they're just going to let Mark run. And if not, they'll go to Moulton. First down and 10. Shotgun set with no huddle. And Xavier Williams rushes for a 2-yard gain. Second down and 8 at the 50. Let's go, Ducks. And so far, the Ducks have been great, up to this point. And again, at some point, I do expect a big fumble or a big pick in the second half. But O-line and D-line for Oregon have been winning the battle up front in the trenches early on. And again, whoever was going to win the battle in the trenches, the O-line and the D-line battle, was going to win the game. And so far, we got a early 9-0 lead, but that's not enough. Shotgun set. Oh, Caden rushes to that 9-yard spot. First down, Iowa. Now, Caden has got that speed. And little halfback toss to Caden. Shotgun set. Gronowski pass complete deep left. Gill. Wow. First and goal at the Oregon 3. And now Iowa, if they hand it off to Moulton, you would assume that they're going to be in the end zone in a play or two. I guess you could run it with Gronowski as well. But that's a big play. Biggest play for Iowa so far. And plenty of time back there. One-on-one coverage with a wheel route, it looked like. And he's down to the 3-yard line. A nice job for Gronowski there. Gill with the big catch. And obviously, when you're running away, from a linebacker in coverage. And there we go. Gronowski, pass complete. Touchdown, Iowa. Wow. Extra point incoming here. And a nice touchdown there by DJ. And there's nobody there. DJ Vonham. Extra point is up for the Hawkeyes and good. 9-7 Oregon. Now we're starting to have a good game here. And I think both teams have finally started to settle in, so to speak. The weather is starting to lighten up slightly. And we'll see if we can get some big plays here in the last 5:43 left to see if Oregon can get a field goal or a touchdown before we get into halftime. Take a look at some of the other scores up to this point. A&M up 7-0 on Missouri. Syracuse and Miami knotted up at 0, which is surprising with 4:41 left in the second quarter. Auburn up 7-3 on Vandy. And then we got Washington and Wisconsin on. And at some point, it was supposed to start at 1:30. It's 1:44 right now, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Wake Forest and Virginia on a little bit later. Cal and Louisville. LSU and Bama is intriguing. And then we got Navy and Notre Dame to kind of cap it off at the very end on NBC/Peacock. Final score from some of the games earlier today. Number 2, Indiana with a scare, winning 27-24, getting a touchdown there by Fernando Mendoza with about 45 seconds left. 27-24 over Penn State. Georgia blasting Mississippi State 41-21. Texas Tech winning 29-7 over BYU. Ohio State, the kings of college football, 9-0, beating Purdue 34-10, which they should. And Ole Miss beating the Citadel 49-0. And then obviously USC beating Northwestern yesterday, 38-17. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. You know, you would assume the Eagles will more than likely have one spot in the NFC Championship game, and then the other spot will either be, you know, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Detroit Lions, the Green Bay Packers, the Seattle Seahawks, the Los Angeles Rams. It would be probably one of those, you know, teams that gets there. And, you know, we got a lot of injuries. But again, I like our chances tomorrow and for the rest of the season. As long as we got Baker, he will continue baking. Perfect fit for the team. There's no doubt about that. And Drew Stevens with the kick. And fair caught by Davison. First down and 10 at the Iowa 35. And hopefully we get Hill the ball, you know, on this drive. He's too good of a player not to get touches. All right, come on, Ducks. Got to find a way. First down and 10. Dante Moore under center, little play action bootleg, keeping his eyes downfield, throw to the sideline, and complete. And we got a flag on the play. McClellan with the catch, but did he push off? Are they going to pick the flag up? What are we doing here? 2 fouls on the play. All right, both on the offense. Okay, ineligible downfield. That one's declined. What's the other one? All right, so they had McClellan pushed off. Okay. Come on, Jeremiah. And obviously, you know, having to go with some of these backups. You know, no Gary Bryant Jr., no DeCorian Moore. And that push off was weak. Come on. That's a weak ass call. $12-yard penalty there. First down and 22 at the Oregon 13. And again, you know, if it's going to be, you know, ticky-tacky, you know, in the fouls, just like when you know, watch like an NBA game, you know, sometimes it's a foul and sometimes it's, you know, debatable. No huddle. And hand off to Whittington. Get it, Noah. And there we go. 7-yard rush there from Noah Whittington. Jaden Montgomery with the coverage. Second down and 15 at the Oregon 20. Dante Moore pass to Johnson. And that is caught for about, 2-3 yards. Jamari Johnson. Third down and 12 at the Oregon 23. And obviously not having, you know, our regulars, you know, at wide receiver and tight end are definitely hurting us quite a bit. And hopefully Gary Bryant isn't out for the whole year. And Dante Moore pass complete to Johnson. 9-yard pass, 4th down and 3 at the Oregon 32. I know we got a next man up mentality, but the athletic ability from our starters to the backups, there is a pretty big difference. All right, Oregon's going to punt. And Ferguson Reynolds punts it 41 yards and out of bounds. 1st down and 10 at the Iowa 27. And obviously the weather has been a factor here today. Lots of rain coming down. Nice job by Ferguson Reynolds with that punt for 41. And we got about 3 minutes to go before halftime. 9-7 Oregon. Yeah, rain is coming down. It's supposed to rain the whole game, so it's going to be definitely, we haven't had the big fumbles just yet, but again, you're going to see an interception here, interception there. And I mean, we got 1 sack lunch for Oregon up to this point, and then obviously Iowa got that big pick after Dante Moore threw into double coverage. But since then, he's been a little bit better. But again, we're far from being over at this point. 9-7 Oregon. Yeah, Bryant is out. Let's go. 49 likes, 51 to get goal. We got 196 in the room. Takes 1 second to hit that like button. Yeah, it looks like he's out for the game, and there is a chance. Hopefully he's not out for the year, but he couldn't put any weight on his leg, and had to have trainers and teammates kind of walk him off, and then he walked towards the to the back of the locker room. So I don't think you're going to see Gary Bryant Jr. And obviously that's huge, being our punt returner, kick returner, and usually being our 3rd, 4th, 5th option at wide receiver. But no DeCorian Moore, no Kenyon Sadiq, no Gary Bryant Jr. after he got hurt today. And again, I still think we have enough to win, but we definitely need to keep running the ball with Hill and Whittington, and Dante's going to have to make some smart reads, and the defense is definitely going to have to come up big a few times in the second half. But it's just raining sideways out there at Kinnick Stadium. It's not snowing yet, but there was rumors that if the weather front came in, that there could be some, in the 4th quarter, but I don't know if that's true or not. But at least we have good depth, rather than only having those guys and then we have weak backups, then we would be really in trouble. So, and loss of a couple yards there. Moulton with the loss of 1 or 2 there. No huddle on the shotgun set. Granaski sitting back there. Nice catch. 1st down, Hawkeyes. Nice catch there. Yeah, we can't have just rushing 3 with a couple minutes to go here. Shotgun set. Play action, going deep. Sam Phillips stretching out. Looks like the Oregon DB held him, but there was no call. Looks like there was a little bit of contact there. And that should have been a penalty on Oregon. I don't know how they didn't see that. That definitely was PI. There's no, again, regardless if you're an Oregon fan or not, a penalty is a penalty. And that was pretty clear. I mean, if you're a ref, how do you miss that? So it makes you kind of wonder, when you see blatant penalties not called and things that are not penalties called. It's just, give me some consistency. 2nd down and 10. And Gronowski up the middle, which has been kind of a common theme for the Hawkeyes up to this point with the bad weather. Gain of a couple. And now we're at 3rd down and 6, and we're at the 2-minute warning. Ninth ranked Oregon up by 2, 9-7 Iowa. Let's go, baby. And again, if you're just tuning into the game, it didn't really go the way that we thought to start off. Both teams had a 3-and-out and were passing the ball in the rain, which didn't make any sense. And then when Iowa tried to punt, they muffed it, went over the punter's head, and then the punter finally kicked it out of bounds into the back of the end zone, resulting in a safety for Oregon, which is kind of a weird start for us. We usually don't have that happen. So 2-0 Oregon there in the first quarter. And then Hill ended up getting us a nice touchdown for 19 yards on the ground. 9-0 Oregon. And then we saw Gronowski there, obviously to DJ, getting that nice tutty back. And now we're sitting at a 9-7 game. So again, a little sloppy because of the rain. But again, it kind of feels like finally, with about 2 minutes to go before halftime, that both teams are slowly settling in. And we should be able to get hopefully more points in the second half. And we'll see where it ends, where the chips fall when it's all said and done. No, Dante hasn't run yet. Again, he's quarterback for Iowa, has been running pretty fiercely. He's got 7 carries for 13 yards. I mean, he's not getting a lot of yards, but they're attempting it, quite a bit. He's 4 for 9 for 61 yards and a tutty. Dante Moore, 5 for 9, 58 yards. He threw into double coverage, on one of the first drives of the game, second drive, I believe, and that turned into a pick. So he doesn't even have a touchdown yet. And he's got 1 carry for a yard. So again, Dante Moore not running the ball just yet. And, again, if we can give the ball to Davison, Whittington, and Hill, that's the formula, especially with our receiving core. Jamari Johnson has got 4 catches. Gary Bryant Jr.'s got 1, but now he's injured, and that's all Oregon has, obviously for receiving. So again, if we're going to win this game, we're going to have to pound the rock. And honestly, if the rain wasn't here, I don't think Oregon would have blown out Iowa. I don't think I would agree with that, Richard, because, again, with all the injuries that the Duck players have had, no DeCorian Moore, no Kenyon Sadiq, now Gary Bryant Jr. out. I mean, that's a good chunk of where we typically go with the football. So, I don't think it would have been a blowout if we had, beautiful weather. I think it would have been, a lot closer, kind of like what we're getting right now, even with the rain. So now if all of Oregon players were healthy, there might be a chance that they pull away, but you got to respect Iowa. They're 6-2, 4-1 in the Big Ten. They're at home. They got passionate fans, and it's not like Oregon plays great on the road. If you watch the Northwestern game earlier in the year, we sometimes start slow. And a great defensive play there out of the timeout. Nice job by Betcher. Yeah, I am too. And I think that you're not the only one. I think a lot of us, Duck fans, we definitely would prefer to have someone better. I don't think a lot of us are very satisfied with him. Great play there by Betcher as we go into another timeout. Yeah, we have receivers that are injured. I mean, if we had so many receivers, then how come we only have one guy that's got catches and then the other guy got hurt? So we only have one guy that's actually gotten the ball. So, and it's not like Oregon, again, Dante Moore got hurt, in that Wisconsin game and had to leave in the second half. And again, we've had, back-to-back games with rain, and obviously we're not going to play our best football in the rain, even though, we're here in Oregon, and obviously we're used to rain, sleet, and snow. But I mean, it's not intimidating for us, but we need our guys healthy. 4th down and 14. Oregon receives the punt and tripped up at the 19 there. Benson returned for 6 yards. 1st down and 10 at the Oregon 20. Yeah, but that doesn't mean those guys are good. And if they're so good, where are they? First down and 10 at the Oregon 31. After that big run there by Noah Whittington, nice 11-yard gain. 1st down and 10 with about a minute and 30 and counting. 9-7 Oregon. There we go, baby. And then big 27-yard run there by Noah Whittington. Great stiff arm. 1st down, Oregon. 1st down and 10 now at the Iowa 42. And if the weather is nice, it's definitely not a blowout. I mean, it's not like Iowa's not, it's not like they're 2-6 and they're not ranked. They're 20th. They're 6-2, 4-1 in the Big Ten. So, I mean, Oregon really hasn't played very good ball lately, within the last few games. And timeout by Iowa. We got 1:28 left here in the second quarter. 9-7 Oregon. Hopefully we'll be able to punch in one more touchdown here, and we'll be able to go up 16-7 or 17-7 here at half. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on the dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. And shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Judah in the building. What's good? 1st down and 10. Shotgun set. Whittington rushes to that right side. And about 3 yards there for Noah. 2nd down and 7. For the Oregon Ducks. Four-yard pass there on a no huddle by Dante Moore to Noah Whittington. 3rd down and 3 at the Iowa 35. And really the only thing that and obviously I don't think a lot of people for, Oregon Duck fans, we don't really like Will Stein at OC. He's not very good. But again, I feel like one thing that they haven't really capitalized on all year is giving Hill more touches. He's the one guy that every time he touches the ball, something great happens. And I love Noah Whittington and what he does, but Hill should be the one. Whittington should be the change of pace back, like two. It's like having like a Gibbs and Montgomery for the Lions. And again, both can end up scoring touchdowns, but I think that Hill gives you more big play ability, and again, he's a little stronger. Whittington is a little undersized, even though he's, still obviously a great running back himself, but, he doesn't have the same type of electricity like a Jahmyr Gibbs or a Bucky Irving, but, little check down. And timeout is called. And Justice Lowe with his first catch of the day. Yeah, Gabriel was at UCF, Oklahoma, and then transferred, to Oregon. So, and then obviously got drafted by the Browns. So, yeah, I mean, usually you're not going to have the same quarterback year in and year out. That's not really how college football typically works all the time now. You might have a new quarterback every year. So, all right, come on, baby. 12 seconds left here in the second quarter. And now Iowa with a timeout. 9-7 Oregon after Oregon started the game with a safety after a muff, punt attempt by Iowa went over the punter's head, and then he had to chase it into the end zone and finally got a foot on it to kick it out of bounds. And then we've seen Hill with the touchdown where they need to give him the ball more. That's my one gripe with Will Stein. And then Gronowski there with the DJ for a touchdown to make it 9-7. And again, it's been raining nonstop since kickoff. And again, that has been kind of a factor, with the, play calling as well as the yards and the points that we have up to this point. I'm not sure if we're going to end up getting sleet and snow before this one is up, but definitely a big storm there at Kinnick Stadium. All right, here we go. 2nd down and 7. Let's see if we can put up at least, a field goal, before halftime is up, but a touchdown would be preferred, but we're running out of time here. Shotgun set, Dante Moore, screen pass, and Whittington, short gain. That was kind of a wasted play call. That's Will Stein for you. And timeout Oregon, and I assume that we're going to bring out Atticus Sappington for a long field goal. And we got only a couple seconds left before halftime. Yeah, Brooks is a very talented up-and-coming producer, and anything that, I can do to be able to promote him, and also, for us to be able to have some great background music, every single day. Obviously, that'll, make a big difference too. 46-yarder. I don't know. This might be out of Sappington's range. I mean, he definitely's got the leg, but again, in rain with wind, this might be tough, but this could be huge if he ends up making it, so that way we can extend our lead, to 5 rather than just being up by 2. Probably would have a better chance as running a Hail Mary with Dante Moore rather than kicking this, but and kick is up and good. There we go. We'll take that. 46-yarder in the rain, and he kills it right down the middle. Wow. I'm shocked. I did not think that was going to happen. Again, we've seen Hawkeyes, make some big plays, but we've also seen him shank, chip shots that were, 25 yards, and it started to go wide right, and then a nice follow through with that kick, and we'll take that. That's huge for us. 12-7 Oregon. Well, when you've been watching Oregon football since 1985, I think that, you have to understand, it's cool to root, for everyone on the team, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to turn out the way that you want. And luckily, we ended up getting that field goal in that tough weather. Yeah, plus only 72%, 8 for 11. I mean, again, it's college, so it's completely different. So, but, if you go back into like 2023, he was 92%, right? 2024, he was 87%. This year, only 72. So there is a reason, why, at some points you root for a guy, like Atticus Sappington, but nothing is, fully guaranteed. I mean, hell, even when you watch the NFL, right, you start to see kickers miss extra points and gimme field goals. Like, nothing is really guaranteed as a kicker, and especially the snap, in rainy weather, the placement, the hold, all that has to come in, and you have to pray that the kicker doesn't slip on the rain, in the mud and or on the turf. And luckily everything worked out, and we'll take a 12-7 halftime lead. I believe Oregon gets the ball in the second half. Absolutely. Definitely looking forward to that. I'll be definitely watching. I don't know if I get it here live, here in Oregon, but if I do, I'll do the game, but I don't think I'm going to get it here live and whatnot. And then obviously we'll do Sunday Night Football, but I'll definitely be rooting on Baker and the Bucks, and again, that's going to be, the first time that New England is kind of relevant, past the Brady, Gronk, Belichick era. They finally have some swagger and some aura with Drake May, and, good for them. It's nice to see the Patriots and Colts, playing some good football, past the Peyton Manning, Tom Brady era, where they have a new identity for both of those teams. And, we know the Chiefs and the Bills still aren't as good as maybe they used to have been, the past few years, but still good enough to represent the AFC. And then Denver, obviously has a great defense, but that offense sometimes is, sputtering and slow with Bo Nix. Sometimes it's good, sometimes not. And they had an ugly win a couple days ago. So, it definitely feels like it's up for grabs in the AFC, and the NFC has, quite a few more well-rounded teams on offense, defense, and special teams, with the Eagles and the Buccaneers and the Packers, the Lions, the Seahawks, and the Rams. So feels like they're a little bit more well-rounded in the NFC, but it definitely feels like it's up for grabs. Now, could we end up getting a Bills-Eagles Super Bowl? Of course. That would definitely be one of the, first choices, for a lot of fans. But, you never know. You got to be able to play those games to earn it. No one's going to give it to you. And we'll end up seeing what we end up getting on that. And then obviously in the college football playoff, we obviously know how great Ohio State and Indiana are, as well as the other teams in the top 10. But it definitely feels like, Ohio State is the best right now, but it doesn't feel like they're so much better than everyone else. They're great and they're at the top, but I don't really feel they're like unbeatable. There definitely could be someone, that could give them an L at some point or another. But it's also very plausible that Ohio State wins back-to-back and they do it again. Sayan has been a great quarterback for them in 2025, and they got a great selection of skill position players on offense and defense, and we'll see how it all kind of plays out. And again, obviously, where the contenders and the pretenders will weed themselves out, where it kind of feels like Green Bay is a pretender, but they still got a pretty good record. So we'll continue to see, how they play. And they got a big game against the Eagles on Monday night. So if Green Bay wants to get into that conversation again, as that, no, we're real, we're not pretenders. You got to be able to beat teams like Philadelphia. And again, it feels like, the Eagle and the Lions, even though that they're beatable, they're kind of at the top. But again, the Rams, the Seahawks, the Buccaneers, even with some injuries, it still feels like those teams definitely still have a shot to make the NFC Championship game to potentially play, the Eagles or the Lions. And, it definitely feels like it's up for grabs, and which is kind of nice, if you are an NFL fan. Obviously, it's, 100 plus Division I teams, and that's why week in and week out, you don't have a lot of quality games like this. Usually you're going to have a few ranked opponents in college football. You'll have a few good games every weekend, but based on like 100, Division I, teams that are in college football, there's a lot of kind of like garbage matchups, throughout the year, and every week you're going to have a couple good matchups here and there with a ranked opponent and a ranked opponent like here today, but you're not going to have it every week with your favorite team. And, we'll kind of see where, the chips fall in the college football playoff as well. I appreciate you. And we do a little bit of everything here. I've been doing this for 13 years. This is my 9th year on YouTube. I've done this streaming. Next year will be 14 years total, 10 on YouTube. And most people know me for, doing the Seattle Mariners. That's where most people know me from. Obviously, I do the Oregon Ducks as well. Lots of NFL, Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night, Buccaneer games also, and just good matchups. And then, NBA with the Blazers, NHL with the Kraken, and also good NBA matchups and NHL matchups. WWE, AEW for wrestling, NASCAR Cup Series, the Trucks and Xfinity. Obviously, even though the season just ended, congratulations to Kyle Larson. And then every once in a blue moon, UFC and boxing, if it ends up being worthwhile, to do a big event. But, it's kind of like hit or miss with UFC and boxing lately. Not every UFC matchup is going to be worth, doing a stream on. But I usually try to pay attention to what's going on in the UFC and the boxing world as well. But a little bit of everything, and again, once we get into baseball season, it'll be Mariners pretty much every day. But, once the baseball season is over, congratulations to the Dodgers when going back to back. And obviously NASCAR is over as well. So it gives us, more attention to the NFL, college football. And then when we need filler streams, during the week when it's not Sunday, Monday, Thursday, or Friday, Saturday for football, then we can mix in a little bit of the NBA and the NHL. So that way we can keep busy here pretty much every day. Once in a while. I mean, obviously, if the Blazers play the Warriors, we'll end up doing that. But again, it kind of just depends on, the support, like how many people are going to support, while I'm grinding, because this is my full-time job. So, when you have this as your full-time job, and I've been full time for 3-4 years already. And again, some streams are going to be better than others for support with likes and views and subs and donos and whatnot. But you just got to be able to grind it out, and hope people will recognize the hard work that's being put in, and and then you just keep grinding every single day. But, again, for me to do the Warriors and they're not playing the Blazers, it would have to be a pretty good matchup, like Warriors and Lakers, if like LeBron, Luka, and Reeves are healthy, that would be one that I would consider doing, or Giannis, versus the Warriors, something like that. But if it's just like a random matchup, probably not, because I'm I live in Oregon, so I'm, more of a Blazer fan. So, that's going to be first priority. But, once in a while, you may end up seeing something like that. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on the dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. And shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Yeah. And again, some are better than others, and again, I think if Bo Nix, actually gets better weapons, on offense, even though they got J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey and, Cortland Sutton and, Troy Franklin, but if they could actually get a true number one receiver, an A.J. Brown type of, big bodied receiver, or someone, that can make big plays for them. And then that way Cortland Sutton can be the 2, and then you can get better running backs, better O-line. We know the Denver defense is ridiculous, but if Bo can continue to work at his game and then eventually get better supporting cast, it's possible that he could end up being better than Justin Herbert when it's all said and done. He may not be there just yet, and obviously if you watch that Denver game against the Raiders, obviously it was incredibly ugly and whatnot, and again, sometimes you're going to win ugly, and you're not going to do a whole lot, but obviously we know that those are the 2 top dogs, and then Mariota obviously filling in for Jaden Daniels with the Commanders, and then you got Dylan Gabriel on the Browns. But hard to succeed in Cleveland, no matter who you are. Thank God Baker got the hell out of there, and I'm super happy that he is the Bucs quarterback. So for me, the teams that I represent, obviously I live in Oregon, so Oregon, Ducks, Portland Trailblazers, Seattle Mariners, and Seattle Kraken, for Pacific Northwest teams. And then the only non-Pacific Northwest team I root for is the Buccaneers, just because I'm a defensive-oriented fan. And, back in the mid-'90s, when I was a kid, nobody really had a good defense between like the Raiders and the Chargers and Seahawks and Niners. I mean, I did like Joe Montana and Jerry Rice and Bo Jackson, Barry Sanders, and Dion, but I didn't really want to be a bandwagon Niner fan, and I kind of had a feeling after the Steve Young, Jerry Rice, Dion Super Bowl in '94 when they beat the Chargers, I felt that they were never going to win again unless they ended up getting another Joe Montana, Steve Young, and I was right. And then I just waited one more year in '95 when Sapp and Brooks got drafted. Lynch was already there. I'm a big guy, fan of Allstott, and that's been pretty much who I've been rooting for since I, was 13, roughly 30 years ago. So those are pretty much the teams that we represent here on the channel. And then obviously, Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night for the NFL. And we try to keep that intact pretty much for the year. Yeah, Marco's tough, for the Beavers. It's like not only do the Cougs and the Beavers get left in the dust, while other teams go to the Big Ten, Huskies, Ducks, Trojans, Bruins. And, when you lose your coach and you lose your recruits, I don't think any Beaver fan anticipated starting off the year, losing the first 4, 5, 6 games. That's not ideal, but I do hope, since you are a true fan, and you've been a good friend of mine for, 10, 20 years now, hopefully it gets better for you guys. And, as they keep reconstructing the Pac-12, and adding more teams, it'll never be what it was. And honestly, when you watch the Big Ten, I wish Oregon was still there in the Pac-12, because I feel like the Pac-12 games are like the NFL, where there was a lot of parity, where you could have the number one like Oregon play the worst team like Cal, and you could lose, and again, I think that's what made it so special, is that every team, even the teams in the middle and the bottom of the Pac-12, could upset a team at the top or in the middle. And when you go to the Big Ten, they have too many teams. It's like fucking like 2 divisions in one. It's like almost 20 teams. So it's very top heavy. And then you have a couple teams, on that second tier. And then there's like a bunch of garbage kind of like in the middle at the bottom. And those middle and bottom teams are not typically going to be able to beat the middle or top teams in the Big Ten. But in the Pac-12, it was more competitive. And I kind of miss that, and then just kind of the dream of, playing in a Rose Bowl, which obviously was like the big game for a lot of us, because let's be real, back in the Nick Saban, days, and obviously with Kirby Smart in Georgia, and obviously as great as Ohio State has been, it's pretty much, if you were Georgia, if you were, Alabama, Ohio State, and then every once in a while, maybe Clemson or LSU would have a special year with like Trevor Lawrence or Joe Burrow. Yeah. But if you're, typically like Oregon or USC or any team that was dominant, we never would be able to win a natty or even get to a natty for the most part. It was like, okay, let's try to go to the Rose Bowl and win. And that was kind of our, quote unquote natty, or Super Bowl to us. And then obviously things have progressed now with Dan Lanning and recruiting, as well as Chip Kelly. And now we've kind of taken another step, where we've gone to a couple natties, but we haven't been able to get the job done, even though we probably should have beat Cam Newton and Auburn in 2010. That was the best chance that we had, to win one. But I feel with Dan, as a great recruiter, a great man, a great leader, it's almost inevitable that we're going to end up getting the one at some point. It may not be this year, but you never know. But obviously, we've gone through moments at the beginning of the year where it looked like maybe we could get there. But in the last couple of weeks, it definitely feels like we still got kind of some room to grow. And the injuries have definitely not helped us one bit, even though we do have a lot of depth. But I still got faith in the Ducks, and hopefully we'll be able to have a natty at some point under our belts before it gets too late for me. So yeah, and it's nice to be able to have some Ducks and Huskies on the Buccaneers too, with Vita Vea and Jalen McMillan, Bucky and Tez. So it's not often where you have a team that's quite a bit far away from you, and you're still able to root on players that you root on, obviously, during Saturdays. So yeah. And Jay, I've been watching since the mid 80s. So again, when I started watching Oregon, they were winning like a game a year, and again, obviously when you're only winning a game or two, and then you went from the Rich Brooks era to Mike Bellotti, and then obviously, the pick by Kenny Wheaton, in 94, went to the Rose Bowl, lost to Penn State, but got kind of our name out there with Kajana Carter, running back for Penn State back then. And then really, going from that, Tony Graziani, and then, obviously getting to Akili Smith, and then finally getting to the quarterback that means a lot to me, Joey Harrington. And when you had Captain Comeback, it kind of felt like, we can hang with anybody, in the late 90s, early 2000s. And that 2001 Oregon Duck team arguably was one of the most talented teams we've ever had, offense and defense, based on the NFL players that have come out in that 2 to 3 year range, where we had 20, 30 players make the NFL in the 2 or 3 year span. And again, and then we've definitely, have made a lot of ground in the last 25 years. And again, we're still, not where we want to be just yet, but definitely exciting to see the evolution. And obviously, we have Phil Knight, and we got sponsors, we got Nike, we got crazy uniforms. But if you ask any real Oregon fan, we would, scale back some of the amazing uniforms for a natty. It's not like, oh, you got all this money. But again, money for uniforms and shoes doesn't equate championships. It's just kind of a nice perk, that we're, definitely into style, and we were able to, showcase, college football in a different light, for helmets and jerseys and gloves and socks and cleats, and to be stylish out there, but again, you look good, you feel good, you play good, and that's a big part of it, but at the end of the day, a lot of us are still dreaming of that natty and obviously winning it, and hopefully that ends up being the case at some point down the road. Yeah, it sounds like Dante Moore is staying, and he'll be back, next year. And, obviously when I watched Dylan Gabriel last year, I saw Michael Penix Jr. and I was like, ooh, lefties are cool. But it only works when you have a smooth lefty that can throw. I felt like Gabriel, to me, was like kind of a poor man's Tim Tebow, but he couldn't run. So it's like a lot of his throws, were kind of intermediate and checkdowns. And could he make a deep throw from time to time? Yes, but he wasn't really the greatest runner. And some of the throws, and obviously when you're running the offense from the left side rather than typically the right side for Oregon, obviously we had a great year. And obviously if it wasn't for Chip Kelly in Ohio State, scoring 28 on us in the first quarter and the game was already over within the first few minutes, if we didn't have to go against that, Chip Kelly ultimately saved Ryan Day's job, and got them the natty that they obviously wanted. And, it shows you the college football playoff is a little flawed. Obviously every single team that ended up having a bye lost. So Ohio State continued to play every single week, and that was to their advantage. While you had all the other teams that went 12-0 or 11-1 had like 2 to 3 weeks off. So if you have 2 to 3 weeks off in college football, that's an eternity. And again, if you start slow while you're playing a team that's been playing every week, gaining confidence like the Buckeyes, the rest is history. So it definitely hurt last year, but again, I know that we're going in the right direction. And, Dante Moore, obviously a little undersized. Hopefully he can stay healthy. And then we got other guys kind of waiting in the wings eventually. Like, have you seen photos of him and Hawkeyes Smith Jr., who obviously is represented with the Ducks and maybe will be our quarterback at some point? He is quite a bit bigger. And again, we'll see, how that works out down the road. But, Dante Moore has been good for us. Again, he just needs to be a better decision maker, obviously in double and triple coverage, obviously with that big pick early in the first half, but we'll see where it goes. We're up 12-7 here. Hopefully we'll do a lot of ground and pound with the rain still falling, and we'll find a way to get the victory. Yeah, Gabriel could run, but not like Tim Tebow, It's like you couldn't really count on Gabriel on getting you a tough first down. And, Gabriel was okay to me, but again, it wasn't really his fault, that we didn't beat Ohio State. Obviously, it was the defense giving up all those, big plays. And when you go against a guy like Jeremiah Smith, that's another thing. We haven't had, players like LaMichael James since LaMichael James and DeAnthony Thomas. And we need guys like that, to be able to compete with the Ohio States and the Indianas. And, again, it's not like, we're going to come across with a top 10 offense, top 10 defense, and top 10 in special teams like Indiana every week. But, we got DeCorian Moore, who's the closest thing that we've had since like a DeAnthony and a LaMichael. And I do like Hill a lot as well, but we need to get those type of guys. And the more, 5-star, athletes we can get that are high end, NFL ready, that's going to give us a better chance. And a loss of 2 on the first run there by Hill. Second down and 12 at the Oregon 23. Yeah, that definitely hurt. The Dennis Dixon era. We were good that year. Shotgun set with no huddle. Noah Whittington runs for 6 yards. Third down and 6 now at the Oregon 29. No worries. Good to see you. And look forward to seeing you next time when I end up doing the Ducks. I'll be doing it next Friday. And they go against Minnesota. Third down and 6. Shotgun set, no huddle. Dante Moore incomplete to McClellan. And I'm just sick and tired of him going to McClellan. We need Evan Stewart bad so desperately now. With all these injuries now, no DeCorian Moore. No Kenyon Sadiq at tight end. Both guys are NFL. And again, no Gary Bryant Jr. Evan Stewart has been injured all year, and having to throw to fucking guys like McClellan is not ideal. And that was batted down there by the defensive line. 4th down and 6 at the Oregon 29, and Oregon with Ferguson Reynolds with the punt, and fair caught there at the Iowa 33. All right, Ducks defense. And I'm a defensive guy first. You know, I love linebackers. I love safeties, D-line, corners. You know, defense wins games, defense wins championships. And obviously you need to put up some kind of points, you know, with the offense. But I like the, you know, positions that are underrated and overlooked, like O-line, D-line, defense, coaching, play calling. You know, I feel like quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end are the most overrated. You know, I feel like the media, you know, gives all the love and the kudos to those position groups, and that's it. But again, anyone knows football. If your O-line and D-line aren't good, you're not winning, period. You know, the battle in the trenches is very, very important to be a successful team because, again, if your O-line isn't doing a good job, you're not running, you're not throwing, and you're not scoring. And, you know, it would be nice to be able to get, you know, the media to understand, you know, that it's okay to give love to O-linemen and defensive players and special teams, kickers and punters and coordinators and coaches. But, you know, obviously we know quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends put butts in the seats. And obviously they sell a bunch of jerseys for those skill position players. But, you know, if you don't got a good O-line and D-line, those guys are nothing. Yeah, Hawkeyes is out as well. Yeah, and again, you know, and then Bryant Jr. getting hurt earlier in this game, and that's normally our punt returner, kick returner, and usually like 3rd, 4th, 5th string receiver. And, you know, at this point, you know, I actually would rather probably pass a little screen passes to Whittington rather than going to fucking McClellan, you know. And again, you know, pound the rock, you know, whether it with Hill or with Whittington. And I mean, even Dante Moore running an RPO and maybe running the ball a little bit here and there, you know, could help us get a few, you know, stretch plays on the offense. But this is definitely the most beat up that our offense has been. And also, you got to remember, Dante Moore ended up getting hurt when we were giving the tribute to the Grateful Dead with our Grateful Ducks uniforms when we were playing against Wisconsin. We did not look good in that game. The rain was coming down, and Dante left in the second half. And since that injury, Dante really hasn't looked the same. And hopefully, you know, we'll get back to, you know, getting back to playing Oregon Duck football from the beginning of the year. We'll have an easier opponent next week, I believe, with Minnesota, but, you know, we'll see where it goes. First down and 10, and Kamari Moulton there with a 6-yard run. Keon Gray with the tackle. Second down and 4 at the Iowa 39. Punt, fumble, punt, TD, punt. So the Oregon Duck defense has done a great job. Again, that's like the one side where we haven't had as many injuries. The offense is depleted. The defense is you know, still there. Thank God, you know, because if we had, you know, Betcher out and a few others, we might be screwed in this game. So we still got some pieces there. A lot of sideline to sideline guys, a lot of athleticism. You know, getting guys like Bear Alexander from USC was huge, you know, to give us a little bit more depth on the D-line. And again, we got, you know, plenty of good pieces on every level, the D-line, the linebacking core, and the secondary. And Moulton there with a 3-yard gain. Jerry Mixon with coverage. Jerry has been busy today with Betcher. Third down and 1 at the Iowa 42. I think both teams should pound the rock. You know, obviously they're going to have some options with wide receivers and tight ends for Iowa that we don't have the ability to go to because our guys are hurt. But good tackle there by Oregon and Jerry Mixon. Third down and 1 at the Iowa 42. Oregon 12, Iowa 7 in a sloppy, you know, first half because of the rain that has been coming down. But it looks like it's slightly, starting to, give up a little bit with the rain. I mean, you're starting to see that, some of these Iowa players are breathing pretty hard. Obviously, the weather will continue to be a factor the rest of the way. 3rd down and 1, and Kamari Moulton there. And 2-yard rush right up the middle. 1st down, Hawkeyes. Move the chains. Ground and pound for both. Come on, Ducks. Let's go, Oregon. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. 1st down and 10. And Moulton again, who is their 3-down back and their workhorse, 3-yard run, just chipping away. 2nd down and 7 at the Iowa 47. Injured in the 1st quarter of the season opener and just trying to find his footing now as we get into the back end of the season for Kamari Moulton. And shotgun set. Gronowski there rushes to that left side. 6-yard gain, just short of the 1st down marker. I believe 3rd down and 1 at the Oregon 47. Hopefully Dante Moore can run the football here and there as well. Oh boy, had the Legion of Doom Road Warriors with the shoulder pads with the corn coming out. I don't think I've seen that before. Hardcore look. Obviously, we've seen Georgia fans, with the Legion of Doom, Road Warriors, Animal and Hawk, shoulder pads with the spikes. And then you get, certain fans that get a little creative with it, with the corn on there. I love the passion of college football and their fan base. And Kamari Moulton looks like he just barely got the 1st down. 1st down and 10 at the Oregon 46. Move the chains. Play action. And Gronowski with pressure avoids a sack lunch. And luckily has a check down there, but that's a loss of a yard. Moulton there with the screen. 2nd down and 11 at the Oregon 47. Well, these two guys have been doing games for quite some time. I believe it's Nestler as the play-by-play. And then, you've had these same guys that have done CBS for, quite some time. And you got to remember, they normally do SEC games until, the networks have made a shift. And then now you're starting to see Big Ten games on CBS a little bit more. And a 3-yard run there by Xavier Williams. Jericho Johnson with the tackle for the Oregon Ducks. 3rd down and 8 at the Oregon 44. 12-7 Ducks with about less than 8 minutes to go here in the 3rd quarter. Seven rushes, 1 pass for 23 yards, 520 and counting on this drive. 3rd down and 8 at the Oregon 44. And we need a stop. Come on, Ducks. We need a fumble. We need a pick. We just need a stop. 3rd down and 8, 4-man rush. Get him! Get him! And chasing him down. And there's a flag on the play. Maybe that's got to be a hold on the O-line. They ruled that a catch on the sideline. I don't know about that. You would assume that's a hold on the O-line for Iowa, but we'll find out here. Yeah, I mean, Marcos, it's not going to be like Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt. They are the best in college football. Arguably the best in football overall. I mean, obviously Jim Nantz and Tony Romo are, pretty nice. Illegal hands in the face. Give me a break. Let me see. And I don't even know if he got that catch on the sideline. Review that. They got to review that. Okay, right up the middle. Oh, yeah, he definitely had his hand on the face mask and did not let go. I mean, he's out of bounds. That was not a catch. That's not a catch. I don't know about that. Where's the other foot when he ends up getting the ball? He's out of bounds. He's already out of bounds with the other leg. I'm not sure about that. I think that's an incomplete pass if you ask me, but, But automatic first down anyways because of the face mask by Oregon. And obviously with Breland, he decided to hang on to that face mask for like 5-6 seconds. And if you're going to hang on that long, you're going to get caught. Wow, they gave him the catch too. Breland, you got to let go, my guy. Breland's like, I got you. Yeah, but we've also seen plays like that go incomplete. So it's not like, that's going to be the call every single time, because we've seen plays just like that, get called incomplete or get overturned for incomplete. So. I mean, we just want some consistency. First down and 10. And Xavier Williams rushes for a yard. Second down and 9 to the Oregon 16. Thieneman. Good tackle there by him in the secondary. And we got an Oregon player down. Jesus Christ. Enough with these injuries. Fuck. And again, if we continue, to have injury after injury after injury, obviously we know we're a pretty good football team, but it kind of feels like based on how the season is going, if we were to play like Ohio State or Indiana, in the college football playoff, and we continue to have all these injuries, I'm not sure if we would be able to hang with them for 4 quarters. Now, if we could start getting some of our guys back, I definitely believe we could. But, we're very, very thin at wide receiver after, our main guys. And, and obviously at tight end, when you don't have Kenyon Sadiq, you have other guys that could fill in, but it's not the same type of impact. So catching, blocking, and everything else in between. So. Stranger Things 5. Can't wait for that. All right, we're at 70 likes, 30 more to go to hit the goal. $70 likes, 30 more to go. And we're still looking for our first dono on our dono train. And shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Let's go, Dan. We got to dig deep. The rain has not quit. here at Kinnick Stadium. And again, I already knew that this was going to be a war and a battle. Agreed. The first part of the season was spectacular, right? And then obviously that big win against Penn State when they still had James Franklin as their coach, that was huge. But then it seems like almost every game, after that, we're starting to get banged up. And even though we have, a lot of depth compared to other teams in college football, sometimes you can't replace certain guys, especially if they're NFL, like Kenyon Sadiq and Dacorian Moore. Second down and 9. And fumble comes out. And who gets it? Is that Oregon? Oregon's got the football, but was his knee down, though? Let's see if his knee is down. Please don't be down. Good tackle right there, too, coming in. Look at that hit. Right on the hip. Yeah, that's a fumble. 100%. That last angle. Great job by Oregon. That's exactly what we needed. That's Oregon's ball, baby. I mean, obviously when they had the camera angle on the opposite side, you couldn't really see, but obviously as we've gone through these different camera angles, that's a big fumble there by Iowa. We love that. Bear Alexander is a beast. Yeah, and again, let's be honest. Iowa was going to score a touchdown on that drive. At the very least, they would have gotten a field goal. But realistically, if they would have ran the ball with their quarterback and handed the ball off here and there, it kind of felt like it was almost inevitable that they were going to end up, being at 12-10. But realistically, probably 14-12 Iowa. Based on how that drive was going. But and if we can end up scoring a touchdown off this turnover, this could be really the swing point in the game, and obviously, both teams are going to go at it in the fourth quarter. But if we can score points off this turnover, this could be really the big turning point in the game at this point in the third quarter with 7:15 left initially. And obviously it's much less than that now as the clock is winded down. Yeah. But again, when they end up reviewing calls, as long as they get it right, but it definitely slows the momentum down, but again, you don't want to have an extended review and then have them make the wrong call, like saying that he was down and then it's Iowa's ball. I mean, we've seen shit like that happen before, even though we know that it was a fumble and Oregon recovered, but you never know in sports. I mean, obviously with this extended review, it kind of feels like they're trying to give the ball back to Iowa. So Hawkeyes just fumbled and Oregon recovered, but now they're reviewing it. So All right, they got the call correct. And that's all I care about. I mean, that was way too long. But the biggest turnover of the game, and at least they got it right. Could you imagine if they would have said Iowa was down and then it's their ball, when it clearly wasn't, and 2 turnovers for Iowa, 1 for Oregon. Now we need to be able to march down the field, and hopefully we can end up getting points here. I mean, even if it ends up being a field goal by Atticus Sappington, I'll take it, at this point in the game. But obviously we're going to be shooting for 6 if we can get it. But Iowa's defense has been pretty stingy up to this point. (12-7) Oregon with 6:15 left in the third. Tonight, Cavs or Bulls? I got Cavs at home. Donovan Mitchell should go off for 30 plus. So now, can the Bulls win on the road? Absolutely. Giddey and a few of the others have been pretty good, but they both have good records. But I think the deciding factor is that Cleveland is at home, and I think I would go with them. $6:15 left here in the third quarter. 12-7 Oregon. Yeah, and we haven't even ran the ball with Dante Moore, like running an RPO, with Hill or, Whittington, and having, a couple of opportunities to, gain a few chunk plays here and there, but again, I don't know how you feel, Jay, about Will Stein and whatnot, but I don't really like him. I usually, kind of get an idea of what an offensive coordinator is about. And, has he made some good calls, this year? Yes, but I think for the most part, I think most Oregon fans are fed up with him and would love to move on from him and get someone better. I mean, a lot of times, with him, it feels like when he calls pass, we should run. And when we need to run, he calls pass. And, again, with the type of athletes that we have, you got to be on point. Handoff. And a short gain there of 2 yards. Jordan Davison with the carry. 2nd down and 8 at the Oregon 15. Max Llewellyn with the tackle for the Hawkeyes. Yeah, Pritchard's going to be in Boston probably his whole career. Stud. Second down and 8. Crowd getting pretty loud here. Here we go. Dante Moore. Here we go. What'd I say? We need to run that RPO. And Dante Moore, 5 seconds later, says, you know what? Let me run it for 49 yards. First down, Oregon. Let's go. Sometimes you just know. I mean, especially if you're like Jay and myself that have been, fans for, 30, 40 plus years, at some point you can run the RPO and just keep it with Moore, and again, they probably should have been running that play in the first half. And obviously, since they didn't, it ended up being a huge play here because they had, no, spy on Dante Moore thinking that he would actually do that. But again, you run that play and you end up making yourself a dual threat instead of just being a quarterback that hands the ball off and stays in the pocket. He's got the speed and the athleticism to do it. Nice job, Dante. First down and 10, hands off up the middle. And now Iowa kind of second-guessing themselves in their defensive coverage after the turnover, and we like that. Nice 5-yard run there. Second down and 5, 3-yard run there by Davison up the middle. Third down and 2 at the Iowa 28. And especially in like short yardage situations, give Hill the opportunity. I mean, we know Whittington can get the first down as well. And again, I mean, that's also kind of the issue when you have too many running backs where we have like 5 or 6, you know, but again, I think Hill should be the 1, Whittington the 2, and then Davison the 3, but you can sprinkle any of the 3 in at any given time, but it kind of just depends on, you know, the situation. And I feel like sometimes Stein, you know, gives the ball to the wrong guy. But let's see if we can get the first down here. And Dante Moore rushing up the middle for 4 yards. First down, Oregon. And finally, Dante Moore using his legs. And that was a great play with trips left right here. No spy on the quarterback. And then he's able to get the first down. Nice job by Will Stein, which we don't usually say that often. But on this drive after the turnover, this has probably been his best play calling up to this point. Good job. Actually, they had a quad over there. It wasn't even trips left. They had 4 receivers over there. I didn't even see that the first time. Shotgun set, and Whittington runs for a yard. Second down and 9 at the Iowa 23, and we're methodically, you know, just, you know, a little here, a little there, an inch here, an inch there, a yard here, a yard there. And eventually, you know, we're going to come up with the splash plays just like that big, you know, 40, 50-yard run by Dante Moore. You know, we can get big 20, 30-yard runs for touchdowns out of Hill and obviously Whittington as well. So it's just about, you know, give the ball to the right player at the right time. Second down and 9. Hill with the gain, about 7 yards there. We're getting closer. Third down and 2 at the Iowa 16. And again, you know, we haven't seen a freshman like Hill in a minute, you know, and again, he definitely kind of gives me like LeGarrette Blount type of vibes. And again, you know, we've had some pretty good running backs over the years. And again, we need to make sure that we're getting the right athlete, the right ball at the right time. And, you know, they definitely have dropped the ball by not giving Hill enough carries this year. I feel like if we gave Hill more carries, you know, say that we would have beat Indiana, we wouldn't have, you know, but again, the games could have been a little bit more impressive on the, you know, stat sheet at the end if Hill got more looks, in my opinion. And Dante Moore on third down and 2 falls down. Jesus Christ. And a loss of 6 there. And he might have got stepped on by an offensive lineman there. And now fourth down and 8. Fuck. Just as when we start getting things going good, field goal attempt by Atticus Sappington is up and good. And we'll take that off the turnover. Obviously, you know, 6 would have been ideal. But after the big fumble, to get at least something, you know, we'll take that. And that's, again, in a game that's ugly with a bunch of rain and wind and, you know, on the road, hostile environment, you know, again, Atticus Sappington at this point is the MVP, you know, at this point with the 2 field goals, and we'll take that. Yeah, agreed. Tifo Chief in the building. What's good, brother? How are you? And field goal is up and good. Oregon up 15-7 after Dante Moore tripped. I don't know if he got stepped on there and lost 6. And, you know, when that ends up happening, you know, the field goal was really the only option that we had. Let them know, Marcos. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on the dono train. Still looking for our first dono on the dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. All right, we're at 75 likes, 25 to hit the goal. All right, 25 more likes out of 160 people. We can definitely do that. Kind of feels like also too, if Iowa decides to go deep, you know, we might end up getting an interception or a big play. You know, again, if Iowa wants to, you know, keep this game close, they can't abandon the run. You have to keep going with what's been working for you up to this point, you know. And again, if they try to get a PI, you know, or you know, a big play going deep, you know, we have you know, the right guys in the secondary that could end up making a big play. Thank you, Chief. I appreciate you, man. I wish others had your same type of generosity, my guy. Stacks. Racks with a little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. We're at 5. 95 to go to hit the goal. I mean, we can get support with the Seattle Mariners throughout the full season, you know, but we need other individuals to step up and support when we do college football, when we do NFL, when we do NBA, and when we do NHL until we get back into baseball season in March. Appreciate you very, very much. Every dollar counts. That'll help take care of my pup, and also just to be able to pay the basic bills to continue to do this every single day. Appreciate you. And Sappington kicks off, and that turns into a 65-yard touchback. First down and 10 at the Oregon 35. And Iowa's got to be very calculated because, again, if they end up calling the wrong type of play, you know, Oregon is definitely very capable, you know, to be able to punch a football out or get a big pick. So we'll see what happens on this drive. A very critical drive for the Iowa Hawkeyes here as the third quarter is winding down. First down and 10. And Moulton runs to that left side. And a 4-yard gain. Bear Alexander, the USC transfer, with the tackle. Second down and 6 at the Iowa 29. Second down and 6, and Gronowski there passing complete deep left to Vanderzee, and they tried to go deep there and complete. Third down and 6 at the Iowa 29. I mean, especially with guys like Thieneman, you know, back there, you know, I have a lot of confidence in his abilities. And flag comes out. And they're going to call pass interference on Oregon. Motherfuck. Oh, Badegu, what are you doing? First down and 10. And a short run there by Moulton, and that is going to be the end of the third quarter. A little halfback toss to that right side for a couple. End of the third quarter, 15-7 Oregon on the road. Let's go to the fourth, baby. You know, the rain has come down. It's been kind of an ugly game. And, you know, again, not every game is going to be a 50-42 final, you know, where it's just all offense and no defense. So, again, you know, we haven't really been playing the greatest ball the last couple weeks with injuries and rain. But again, we have to just dig deep and just do the best that we can with what we have available. And hopefully we continue to come up with the big plays. And we'll see what happens here for Iowa in the fourth quarter, down by 8. And just kind of a quick recap for anyone that's tuning in, you know, if you're just tuning into the matchup. So obviously both teams started off with a 3-and-out, throwing the ball in pouring down rain, which made no sense. And then as the Hawkeyes tried to punt, it went over the punter's head, and he ended up catching up to it and kicking it into the back of the end zone, which turned into a safety for Oregon, which is a weird start for us, or really any team for that matter. 2-0 Oregon. Then Hill, one of my favorite players on the team on offense, if not my favorite, ends up getting a big 19-yard tutty, you know, and we were up 9-0, so it felt pretty good early on. And then Gronowski there to DJ got a touchdown to make it 9-7. And then Oregon, obviously, with back-to-back field goals in the second quarter and now in the third quarter. And again, Atticus Sappington coming up big when the score was 9-7, making it 12-7 right before halftime, and then 15-7 right before the third quarter with about 44 seconds left. And again, 46 yards for Sappington on the one before halftime, which was huge, in the wind and in the rain. And, that's really borderline his range, even when there's no rain. And then obviously a 40-yarder in the third quarter. So, huge, to be able to get those two, connected field goals, because you got to think, if not, and we're only up 9-7, who's to say that we win this game? Maybe we don't, especially if Sappington already missed 2 kicks. So thankfully, Atticus was on point, and we have a pretty reliable kicker, even though he was better a couple years ago. And today he's, showing out, and hopefully we'll be able to come up with some big defensive plays to kind of put the nail in the coffin. But Iowa is not rolling over, and again, it's going to be definitely a battle and a war all the way to the end. Yeah, unfortunately, that's just the way it is. Again, a lot of people went away from cable and satellite and to streaming apps. And again, it ends up being just as expensive, if not more expensive now, since you have to have this app to watch this game, this app to watch this. And again, it seems like they've added on, more and more commercials, regardless if it's on, a major network, like ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, or if it ends up being on like Prime or, something of that nature. You're Netflix, that's just going to be that way, moving forward, unfortunately. But I would agree, but that's how they end up making money. And Gronowski rushes up the middle for 7 yards. Aaron Flowers with the coverage. First down, Hawkeyes. First down and 10. And shotgun set. Moulton rushes to that left side for a yard. Porter in the coverage. 2nd down and 9 at the Oregon 44. Come on, baby. Nice to see Tuioti out there still, who got banged up earlier in the game, and luckily he wasn't like Bryant Jr., who exited the game, and kind of worried about Gary on his availability next week and 2 weeks from now against USC. So second down and 9 at the Oregon 44. We need a sack. We need a pick. We need an interception. We need a fumble. Something. Come on now. Shotgun set. Man in motion. Handoff up the middle. And another good tackle by the Ducks. Third down and 5 with 13 minutes left and counting here in the fourth quarter. Oregon up by 8. Shotgun set. Pressure coming. Get him. And then good defensive coverage there by the Ducks, chasing down the quarterback. Gronowski. Great job by the defense. Defense wins games. Defense wins championships. Yeah, there's no way he was going to make that. Drew Stevens. Well, they're going to go for a field goal, huh? And kick is up. Wow. Holy hell. How did he make that? Big play by Drew Stevens there. And now it's 15-10, Oregon. I didn't even know if he was going to be able to get the distance there. Good for him. Field goal is good from 58 to keep them in the game. All right, Oregon. Let's go, Dan Lanning. Let's go, Dante Moore. Got to be able to come up with a long drive with points here. 3 at the minimum, but we're looking for 6. I mean, it feels like if you end up scoring a touchdown on this drive, I mean, it's not fully over, but it definitely would put the pressure on Iowa at that point down 22-10. It would feel like it would be almost the beginning of the end of Iowa if we were able to score and take, 4 or 5 minutes off the clock. Concerned about a lot of the injuries too. Minnesota next Friday, USC 2 weeks from now. Hopefully we'll have Sadiq and Dante Moore, and hopefully Bryant Jr. isn't injured for the rest of the year. This definitely would be a game that we could really use Evan Stewart if he was available. Haven't had him all year. But we still have enough talent, on the sideline and on the field to win this game. The Children's Hospital wave is always a cool thing, giving a little bit of light, to individuals that are battling cancer and other things of that nature. A great tradition for Iowa and their fan base, as well as those kids and adults that are in that hospital. Mental health, it's a big thing, depression and anxiety and other things that are going on in life. It definitely is nice when you can end up having something, good in life like that to kind of put a smile to everyone's face, regardless if you're an Iowa fan, an Oregon fan, or a fan of neither of the teams, but just for a good cause. Rain's still coming down, 15-10 Oregon. I don't think we're going to get the sleet and the snow that was rumored, but again, we still do have 12 minutes to go for that to change. But based on the weather pattern, it just looks like continuous rain. And again, it's been a little sloppy, but not as sloppy as it could have been. We definitely have seen games much more sloppier than this. It's not like each team's got 5 fumbles. So, and that's fair caught at the 1. I don't know about that. And that's the problem, when you don't have Gary Bryant Jr. back there and you got Noah Whittington or you got someone else back there. So. And first down and 10, shotgun set, 9-yard run from Whittington. There we go, baby. Second down and 1 at the Oregon 34. All we got to do is just play Oregon football, ground and pound, and again, I am looking for Dante Moore to run an RPO and run at some point in the fourth quarter, and he doesn't need to get a 50-yard gain like he did earlier, just move the chains when needed. Because obviously the DNs are biting almost every single time. Shotgun set with a no huddle, and Whittington again, 8-yard gain. Here we go. Nice job by Noah. First down, Oregon. Move the chains. Holes are starting to open up quite a bit, and Noah fighting and wiggling his way to get those extra yards, which should have been a gain of 3, but with his extra effort, an additional 5 yards. Great job by Noah Whittington. And again, that's one thing about the Oregon backs, whether it's Whittington or Hill or Davison or any of the other guys, everyone is an effort type of player. They're not going to quit, until they're on the ground and, knees touch and elbows are on the ground. Great job. Shotgun set. And now another great run by Hill, 11-yard gain. First down, Ducks. This is what I'm talking about, baby. Let's go. 3 straight great runs. Let's make it 4. Shotgun set. Davison this time. Here we go. 12-yard gain. And you go Whittington, right? Hill, Davison. They can't stop any of the 3 backs. I love it. First down and 10 at the Iowa 35. Let's go. Let's go, baby. I love it. And that's one luxury that we have that other teams don't, but also the offensive line has been doing a pretty fucking good job today. Whoever wins the battle in the trenches is going to win this game. And so far, Oregon's O-line and D-line have been winning the battle. First down and 10. Shotgun set. Hill rushing to that left side for a gain of 4. Sherrar there in the coverage. Second down and 6 at the Iowa 31. And I like how each running back kind of complements each other. Like Noah does things that, Hill, may not, all of them hit the hole. All of them can break tackles. All of them got speed and power, but again, it's this kind of style of running, for Davison, Hill. Hill's more of the bruiser back. Noah, obviously has the power and the speed. And then Davison is kind of smooth, so each one does something really, really well. And they definitely complement each other to the highest level. 2nd down and 6. And Davison rushes up the middle. 3rd down and 2, now at the Iowa 27. Now you got to think, Iowa's a good team. They're 20th in the nation. They're 6-2, 4-1 in the Big Ten. They only lost to Indiana by, I believe, 5. And Indiana crushed us. Indiana's top 10 in offense, defense, and special teams when they played us. And so I already knew that was going to be a tough game, even though that was in Austin. But obviously the weather is somewhat of a factor. And Moore with the run. But now we got a penalty. And that's going to be on Oregon. Fuck, we're going in the wrong direction. 10-yard penalty there. Unexcusable hold. Come on, Oregon. 3rd down and 12 at the Iowa 37. And again, no Dacorian Moore, no Kenyon Sadiq, no Gary Bryant Jr., obviously no Evan Stewart since we haven't had him all year. But again, it's like, we need someone that is reliable that we can fucking throw to. And going to fucking McClellan, more times than not, is not the fucking answer. Pass incomplete to McClellan. And now it's 4th and 12. It's like all we can do is run the football until hopefully next week where we can get Sadiq and Moore back. Because again, not having your number one tight end and your number one receiver as pass catchers and blockers have hurt us today. There's no doubt about that. Even not having Gary Bryant Jr. out there has hurt us, because he would have been the guy that would have stepped up when obviously McClellan you can't really trust. Jesus Christ, McClellan, right in your fucking mitts, dude. And again, if that was anybody, Gary Bryant Jr., Dacorian Moore, Kenyon Sadiq, they'd probably make that catch. And again, some guys are built for the moment, others not so much. I mean, you have a better chance of going to Noah Whittington with a screen pass of him catching something, or even him running a slot route, for a slant or, a crossing route. Like, you have a better chance of throwing it to your running back and catching the ball than you do going that route. And Ferguson Reynolds with the punt there, 30 yards. And now and fair caught at the 7. I mean, it's like you can have incredible depth, at the running back position, but again, it shows you we don't really have the depth at wide receiver the same way as we do at running back. And at tight end for that matter too. So, but this is probably the most beat up that this Oregon Duck team has been. And, if we ended up having a few of those guys playing today, I don't think we have that much more, but I definitely think that we would be in the 20s. We probably wouldn't be in the 30s, but there's a good chance that we would be in the mid to high 20s at this point, even with the rain. But, sometimes you just got to grind out these games, and this is another one of these games on the road that, a passionate fan base in a harsh environment with shitty-ass rain, just like we had to deal with Wisconsin. That game was fucking ugly. We weren't even really able to celebrate the Grateful Dead with those Grateful Ducks unis in the right way. Dante Moore got hurt in the second half, and yeah, we ended up winning, but it wasn't really a normal, typical, Oregon Duck victory. It was like, you're happy that you won, but it was like very, very discomforting, to see the way that we won. But again, I guess a win is a win, but we haven't really played great ball in the last few weeks, and hopefully we can get back on track if we win this, obviously, Minnesota next Friday, and then the big one, USC, and then that'll be at home. And then we go, obviously, to Seattle to play the Huskies, which could potentially, be a loss, with the Huskies and with USC. We're going to have to hope that our skill position players are healthy by then, and then we'll just see where the chips fall if we can continue to keep winning. (15-10) with 8:36 left in the fourth. Ducks ahead. We're 12 likes away from goal. First down and 10. Gronowski decides to rush up the middle, which has been a common theme for them. I mean, even though he really doesn't have the same type of speed as like a Dante Moore. 4-yard gain. Second down and 6 at the Iowa 11 with less than 8 minutes to go here in the fourth quarter. Yeah, Gill is still playing. Eight for 14 for Dante Moore in the rain, 6 for Tell for Gronowski. Obviously, he's been rushing the football, getting more attempts, than obviously Price and a few of the others. Dante. And good tackle there. Third down. Let's go, Betcher. Third down and 5. And Gronowski on 3rd and 5 goes deep. Got a man. Jesus Christ. How is he so open? First down, Hawkeyes. Unbelievable. Manami with the big catch. 40-yard pass there for the Hawkeyes. And unexcusable by the secondary to let someone get behind him there. First down and 10 at the Oregon 48. And again, when you're playing zone, obviously big 40-yard first down there for the Hawkeyes. First down and 10. And Kamari Moulton there with a 2-yard gain. Second down and 8 at the Oregon 46. Come on, Ducks. We need a turnover. Second down and 8 at the Oregon 46. Gronowski pass incomplete, deep right. Benami again. Obviously, they're trying to exploit that particular spot. Third down and 8 at the Oregon 46. just out of reach. The interception attempt there. I mean, it feels like Iowa's just kind of throwing to try to get PIs and just, hoping that they get bailed out by some kind of hold. Obviously there's been a couple of nice, throws, deep that, the offensive player got behind the defense and whatnot. And Gronowski pass complete short left to Gill. And that's a 5-yard pass there. 4th down and 3 at the Oregon 41. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. $5 holla. Thank you so much for your support. Stacks. Racks with a little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. And every dollar counts. Thank you so much for your support. Another $5 holla on the Dono train. Appreciate you. 4th down and 3 at the Oregon 41. I don't know if you're going to go for another 58-yard field goal, but and Gronowski on 4th down and 3, pass complete short middle to Vanderzee. Unbelievable. 1st down, Hawkeyes. I mean, luckily, we still have enough time if they do score here that, we could still end up winning with a field goal or a touchdown. But normally the defense is our strong suit, and they're starting to give up some of these plays late. Kamari Moulton there on 1st down, 15 yards, 16 yards. 1st and goal at the Oregon 10. And I guess we have to be happy that at least there, is 3-4 minutes. So if they do score, we will have plenty of time, not like 45 seconds to get down the field, but unless we can come up with a miracle turnover here. Great run there by Moulton. And I imagine the Duck defense is starting to get a little fatigued and tired out there. But it almost feels like it's inevitable that they're going to get in the end zone here in a play or two. 1st and goal. And Kamari Moulton with a 1-yard gain. To Otodi there with the tackle. 2nd and goal at the Oregon 9. Come on, Ducks. (15-10) Oregon. Ooh, big hit, too. Popped him. Timeout, Iowa. Yeah, we don't want the game to be decided by McClellan, because we already know how that will go. Looks like we hit 100. Appreciate you guys. And we gained 9 more subs since the last commercial break. 40 subs to go to 23,300. Shout out to the 15-20 subs that we've acquired here today, as well as everyone that subbed in 2025. 2:41 left here in the 4th quarter. Oregon hanging on by 5, but it definitely feels like Iowa is just about to score in the red zone, and we'll see what happens here. Tyler in the building. What's good? Yeah, sloppy game with a lot of rain and a lot of injuries for the Oregon Duck offensive skill position players, but we're still in it, and hopefully we can find a way here. 2nd and goal. Gronowski pass complete, short left. And that's a nice 6-yard gain. 3rd down and goal at the Oregon 3. Large, being large here late. And timeout. 2-minute warning, 15-10 Oregon. And again, at least that we have enough time where if we needed to go with an Atticus Sappington, field goal, if they score a touchdown and go up 17-15, we can win 18-17 with Sappington kicking the game-winning field goal, but we have to get into 40 to 45-yard field goal range to do that, if that's how it will go, unless we can end up getting a touchdown to convincingly get that victory at the very end. But let's go, Dan. Let's go, Dante. Got to find a way. I mean, again, and the way that the team looked at the beginning of the year is completely different than what we've seen from Oregon in the last couple weeks. The injuries have definitely taken a toll, and we're just trying to hang on, until we can get some of these guys back. And we still got a couple really tough games before the season is up. USC at home in 2 weeks, Washington at Washington for the last regular season game. And then we got obviously Minnesota, next week, which, should be a winnable game. But again, it's not like they're just going to hand it to us. And hopefully we can find a way to win this, even if it ends up being 18-17. It could be ugly, but I'll take a 1-point win any day. Nobody cares about your parlay. And if you notice that the game was going to have rain, you wouldn't have bet. Be smart and check to see what the weather report is before you make a dumb bet. Like anyone that anticipated this game being in the 30s or 40s or 50s, you obviously haven't been paying attention. (15-10) Oregon. When you know that it's going to be raining for literally, 3.5 hours straight with no let up, it's not like the score was going to be, in the 30s or 40s. You knew that there would be a good chance where you may get one team that gets to 20. You may not get either team into 20. And right now it's 15-10 Oregon. And Gronowski incomplete, short middle, 4th and goal at the Oregon 3. And obviously kicking a field goal with less than 2 minutes to go, that only puts you down by 2. So again, they're going to have to go for it. If we stop them here, we'll see what they have for timeouts and whatnot, but this could be the game right here, especially if we can get the big stop. But of course we don't. Touchdown! Gronowski, 3-yard gain on 4th down. And just like that, 16-15 Iowa. And again, the defense is getting tired. Again, they've had too many 3-and-outs and, too many injuries on offense with our skill position players. And, at some point, you count on this defense to come up big. And unfortunately, we weren't able to come up with the potential game-winning play here by Gronowski. And it looked like that the time the clock actually expired. If you actually go back and look at the replay, it looks like the clock hit 0 before he actually got the snap. But of course, will they review that? Probably not. Nobody cares about your bandwagon Ohio State love. I remember my first bandwagon experience. Not. 16-15 Iowa. Going for 2. Trips left on the 2-point conversion. Wow, Moulton caught that, but did he have a foot down? They say 2-point conversion is good. I want to see a replay. Off the tip as well. He looks like he's out of bounds with the camera angle. Let's see a little closer of an angle here. Looks out of bounds to me. But again, another controversial replay here. We'll see if they end up giving it to him or not. I mean, we already had a throw to the sideline that was pretty close. And this will be under review. And obviously this is big, because again, if it ends up not going, Oregon could potentially win with a field goal, but I mean, you got rain there. I don't know. Out of bounds. All right, there we go. Good. All right, awesome. So now we have a chance, and I think they did get the correct call there. And now 16-15, we can win with an Atticus-Sappington field goal. And obviously, if we get a touchdown, that would be preferred. But again, with the rain and with the injuries, no DeCorian Moore, no Kenyon Sadiq, injuries on the O-line. Really the only position group that's healthy is the running back position. And now we're down with a minute 51, down by 1. And Sappington has, hit 2 field goals today, thankfully, because if he would have missed those, we would have easily lost this game. And again, I don't think that a lot of people coming into the game realized how many guys were hurt coming in. Obviously hostile environment on the road. It's been raining nonstop for 3-4 hours straight, but at least we have 151 left with Dante Moore at the helm, and hopefully we'll be able to come up with enough chunk plays to be able to win this game, even if it only ends up being a win by 2, with a field goal by Sappington winning 18-16. Again, ugly, game with the rain, but again, we'll take the win if we can get it. But again, it's not like Iowa's going to, hand it to us. We're going to have to earn it. So. All right, Dan, up to you. Let's get the job done. 16-15 Iowa, and hopefully we can find a way to get this victory. Yeah, not a lot of people do it. Like I do every Seattle Mariner game, and I do pretty much every Duck game, but usually there's no one else that really grinds it out. So, and plus, it's better to be able to watch a stream from someone that actually cares about the team that they're doing, rather than just some random. but I have been a fan since the mid 80s, when we used to win a game or two a year. So, we definitely have come a long ways in the last 25 years, but we still got a long ways to go. There's no doubt about that, but again, we are happy with Dan Lanning and, the progression that we've been able to make the last few years, and we had some success with Chip Kelly, but we still got a long ways to go. And obviously, with the injuries to Dacorian Moore and Kenyon Sadiq, that definitely has hurt us, as well as Bryant Jr. It's like missing our three best options at wide receiver and tight end. But again, we still have a chance here with 1:51 left to hopefully hit that field goal or get the touchdown to win this. And here we go. Iowa with the kickoff. All right, come on, Dante. Let's go, Dan. Got to get it done. And, we don't really have a whole lot of faith in Will Stein at the OC, but hopefully they'll be able to dial up the right plays here. But again, I think the play clock went to 0, and this play shouldn't even have happened. Look at the play clock. I don't know about barely getting it off. Looked like 0 to me. First down and 10. And Whittington rushes up the middle for 4 yards. Second down and 6 at the Oregon 29. Come on, Ducks. Bellotti was good, but he wasn't better than Chip Kelly. Chip was our best coach until Dan came around. But Bellotti was, good, but Chip and Dan are better. And Dante Moore pass complete short middle. Third down and 2 at the Oregon 33. Come on, Ducks. And a 3-yard run there on shotgun set from Whittington, rushing up the middle. First down, Oregon. First down and 10 at the Oregon 36 with about a minute left. Come on, Ducks. Find a way. Shotgun set, Dante Moore pass complete to Benson. 5-yard gain, second down and 5 at the Oregon 41. Shotgun set, Dante Moore pass complete. First down, Oregon at the Oregon 49. Let's go, baby. 2-minute drill. Nice job, McClellan. I don't really trust you, but, we don't have a whole lot of options there. Here we go. Dante Moore, pass complete. Benson, first down, Oregon at the Iowa 27. Let's go. We're in field goal range with 23 seconds to go. And Sappington has already made 2 field goals. What a catch. That was like one of the catches of the year. Unbelievable blanketed coverage on Benson. How does he catch this? Wow, one-handed. First down, Oregon. Let's go. That was one of the best catches I've seen all year. One-handed. Look at the blanketed coverage. Oh, beautiful. We're talking about a difference between, 6 inches, and that could have been deflected. There we go. Let's go, baby. What a fucking catch. If that catch doesn't happen, maybe we lose. Realistically, but, now we're in great position now with that 24-yard catch. Thank God for Benson. And, thankfully that wasn't McClellan there. First down and 10 at the Iowa 27. We got 22 seconds left. Just a little bit closer for the game-winning field goal by Atticus Sappington, unless obviously we can get a touchdown and then we can win. So. Incredible throw by Dante Moore. Incredible catch by Benson. And again, we've had quite a few injuries. That was one of the best throws by Dante Moore and one of the best catches I've seen in a minute. Let's go. First down and 10. Shotgun set. Dante Moore pass incomplete to Benson. Second down and 10 at the Iowa 27. Dante Moore, pass complete short left to McClellan. 3rd down and 4 at the Iowa 21. Timeout, Oregon. I got to go get my pup some food here before the end. Let's go, Ducks. Third down and 4. Pass incomplete deep left to Benson. And now it's 4th down and 4 at the Iowa 21. And it's going to come down to an Atticus Sappington made or missed field goal to either give us the win or to give us the loss. Oh, man, what a game. Come on, Sappington. He's already made 2 kicks here today. And again, if he makes this kick, he definitely is the MVP of this game with 3 made field goals if he makes this. Timeout, Oregon. Field goal up and good. Let's go. Yes. Hell yeah. Big field goal by Atticus Sappington. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go, baby. And again, this is a pressure situation for Sappington, who's not as good of a kicker as he was last year or the year before, but coming up in the clutch, right down the middle. Kick is good. 18-16 Oregon. Let's fucking go. Let's go. I mean, it wasn't the prettiest game. You know, we had lots of injuries. Bryant Jr. got hurt. You know, no Decorian Moore. No fucking Kenyon Sadiq, our number 1 receiver, number 1 tight end, number 2 receiver, all out. You know, running game obviously was, you know, pretty prevalent. Obviously the rain was a factor. Definitely a sloppy game. But again, at the end of the day, a win is a win. And great job by Atticus Sappington with not 1, 2, but 3 field goals. And he definitely is the MVP here today. And again, we got Minnesota on Friday night next week. Then 2 weeks from now, USC at home. And then obviously the big one in Seattle against the Huskies on the road. And again, we haven't looked good, you know, in the last couple weeks because of injuries and poor play, you know, against obviously Wisconsin at home. And, you know, the rain was, you know, prevalent there as well. And again, Iowa played us tough. And this game could have went either way, but you definitely knew it was going to be one of the best games of the weekend. And it definitely lived up to that. Huge. Oh, baby. And again, that could have definitely been a shanked kick or a blocked kick on Sappington. I mean, that's a lot of pressure for a college kid, let alone an NFL player, and again, way to be. Ice water in his veins, Atticus Sappington. Great job, man. Hell yeah. Little squib kick. Hits the offensive player. Fumble. And the Ducks recover, and it is game over. Let's go. End of the fourth quarter and end of the game. Number 9, Oregon, victorious 18-16 over the number 20 Iowa Hawkeyes. Wow. Oh, man. And shout out to the Hawkeyes and their fan base. Again, I already knew that this was going to be a very difficult game. Did we play our cleanest game? No. Was it sloppy? Yes. Do we have wide receiver depth? No. We obviously don't. Running back depth, we do. Wide receiver and tight end depth, not so much. Defense was getting fatigued and tired at the end. But shout out to Atticus Sappington to get that done. 3 field goals. Huge win. And again, sometimes it's not going to be pretty. Sometimes it's going to be ugly. And it was an ugly win today. But at the end of the day, a win is a win. Congratulations to the Oregon Ducks. Awesome. Well, my weekend is set. Obviously, starting tomorrow, Patriots and Buccaneers at 10 a.m. There's quite a few, must-see games. Obviously, on the NFL side tomorrow, we'll be doing Steelers and Chargers on Sunday Night Football, Eagles and Packers on Monday night, and enjoy the rest of your college football Saturday. I'm definitely on cloud 9 right now. I'm going to spend some time with my pup, and definitely looking forward to the next Oregon Ducks stream. And final score, Oregon 18, Iowa 16. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do on your way out. Shout out to all the people that like, sub, donated, commented, shared. Appreciate you guys. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. Final score, Oregon 18, Iowa 16. And let's keep it moving. Go Ducks.